Donga, the owner of the gun shop, asked Kururi Helan whether it was he who forged this sword, and he answered in the affirmative. He asked how long he had been here. He had been here since he arrived, and Kururi answered that it had been about a year. The master said that it was finally time for the Lord's foolish son to return home, and told him not to return until he said that he had chosen his path as a blacksmith. The teacher said that he had nothing more to teach him, and from now on he would fight the world on his own, noting his terrible talent. He told him to simply continue forging metal every day, as his hands would become dull without practice. Kururi, however, was delighted to have just acquired a profession. He had almost gotten an apple from the tree when his father called him, promising to buy it if he came down. He remembered that in his past life, he had died in an accident and must have been reincarnated in another world. The world of the Genshu Academy game he had been playing. Genshu Academy is a game where the heroine deepens her ties with the royal family and nobles through romantic relationships, and the main feature is that the actions of her rivals hinder the main character. Only once in the entire game did a scene appear that showed him Kururi Helan. In the game, despite the character being portrayed as an evil rich girl, in the ending he for some reason married her even though he was not a nobleman. The joke ending was about a humiliated aristocrat married to a poor farmer, and he decided he had to avoid that at all costs. He decided to do everything in his power to avoid this stupid ending. The boy returned home and heard that there were fewer peasants this month. He thought the problems had started as soon as he got home, but his parents acted as if nothing had happened. He decided it was too early to fail. He decided that he had to understand the situation and take measures for the future, and that he could rely on the custodian of their library. The keeper said that it was because he had studied with a blacksmith, but suggested that they leave the topic and talk about something else. He asked if something could be done about the fact that their peasants were becoming fewer and fewer, and the custodian replied that the main source of income for these places was tourism. This land is popular for its beautiful nature. However, the number of tourists is declining as no special products are produced here. He realized that if the flow of tourists decreased, then the number of peasants would also decrease, as they would go to other, more stable lands, and his family would go bankrupt. The guardian gave him the next part of the book written by Kururi Helan, saying that if he could understand it, it would mean that his magical level had increased. He asked if he knew this, Kururi Helan. The young man wondered what to do, as the situation was still unclear. He read that recently some mysterious sounds have been coming from underground. Kururu thanked everyone who came to the meeting and said that after looking through the letters from the village, they seemed to have found a hot spring. They decided to dig a hot spring and continue digging. He shouted to his father that the hot spring had overflowed. He told his father that the hot spring would be their new highlight and would increase the number of tourists since they now had a source of income. The young man saw that everyone wanted to talk to the first prince and decided that this was his chance to talk to the second prince, Rasha Kudan. He introduced himself as Kururi Helan, and Rasha Kudan asked what he wanted. The hero asked if she knew about the Helan territory and invited her to visit their hot spring. She replied that, if she wasn't mistaken, it belonged to Lord Thorin. Helan knew. She asked him how he did it, and he replied that he would show her, and that one visitor was guaranteed. He wondered why the queen was here, and she said that they could act as usual since Rasha said she wanted to visit the Helans' territory. She asked him if he was a good horseman and offered to ride with her on a horse, since horseback riding is the embodiment of travel. He thought that it seemed they had driven too deep into the forest. Suddenly, a monster appeared and shouted at Rasha to duck. The segment, he shouted, "Fire." They returned home with a smile. He thought he understood now, but there was one more thing. He shouted that they were too far away to visit and asked if he had been invited. Many days later, he watched new groups of tourists at the Rancha Falls. Lotzin, on behalf of the peasants, thanked him for his hard work, but he replied that he should be the one thanking them, as he had learned a lot, and this was one of the countermeasures. The keeper asked him what he was doing, and he replied that he had finally done it. He said that he had been practicing the magic from the second book and thought that he could extract honey from apples if he used the change in the essence of water. He said Kururi-sama was already quite skilled at using this magic and gave him the next book. Kururu thought the apple contained magic and should try it. He asked what happened and felt mana filling his body. They found the place where the treasure of the first king was kept, which was referred to in history as the Empty Land. Kururi's new power-up taught them a few lessons. He used the water magic, water swamp. The brother screamed that the floor had turned into a swamp and he couldn't move. He found the spellbook S and thought he was caught. He thought he'd explored the magic apple's capabilities and next time he could try it with a weapon. The others, however, shouted at him not to leave them here. Kururi-sama captured the members of the Black Shadow. He checked to make sure he hadn't forgotten anything and thought that the time had finally come and he was just going to school. He decided that in the next 3 years his future life would be decided, and he would try to avoid interfering with the characters in the game as much as possible. The people gave him a parting gift, and he, having thanked them, set off on his journey. He saw a girl with a big backpack on the road. The young man wondered whether he should give her a ride, as it would be dangerous if she met an animal on the way. She was dressed like a commoner, with beautiful black hair and features that gave a sense of peace. He realized it was her. Kururu thought that she might be feeling ill and that he couldn't refuse the fragile girl, but also not call her in some inhuman way. He was confident that this unexpected event would somehow work out, and he greeted her. He smiled and asked if everything was okay with her, and if she was okay. Iris Palala, the main character of Genshu Academy, replied that she was simply tired and sat down to rest, and asked not to worry. She asked how he knew that she was going there too, and he replied that he simply assumed that since his road led there too. She thanked him for his concern and said she could get there on foot. He figured if she walked, it would take half a month. The hero said that first he needed to dispel her suspicions and introduced himself as Kururi Helan. She was surprised to learn that he was from the Helan house, which owned the hot springs. He asked if she wanted to talk about it while he gave her a ride, and she said it was her dream to visit the springs. The young man thought it was good that he had gotten along with her so easily, and noticed that she had a lot of luggage. She thanked him for allowing her to ride in his carriage and said she would repay him someday. He suggested they talk about springs, saying that traveling alone was rather boring. He said that the Helan springs have a very good effect on the skin, making it smooth and white, and that they recently discovered that drinking water from them is also very beneficial. She said she couldn't pay off the debt if he did all this, and he suggested that the payment for the meal would be that they eat something tasty and talk about the Helan's holdings. He decided that such a quick meeting was no longer appropriate for the game and decided to do whatever he wanted. He told Iris he had something important to tell her. She said he was kind of absent-minded, and she didn't understand anything. He thought that life at school might not be so fun and that she might face discrimination. Iris slowly began to talk about her life. Her father was a blacksmith, but he died when she was 12, and she lived with her mother and brothers and sisters working in the fields, and they barely managed because of high taxes. She said she was happy when she was accepted, but when she left home, she felt lonely. He was worried about her well-being and thought maybe he could try to cheer her up with stories about his father. The carriage stopped, and he said that there seemed to be some problems. He saw that they were attacked by monsters and were in trouble because they took their entrance pass. She burst into tears, and after listening to her nonsense, he couldn't simply refuse. He decided to prepare the men and go. Kururu thought he could manage from here, but she would probably say that since she hadn't done anything, she couldn't accept the money. He said he'd take one out, and the other would rush them, and Iris could hit them with magic from there. She replied that they were probably too far away. He shouted, "And fire at the enemy." She understood and attacked when the second one was approaching. The girl burst into tears because she broke the sword. She cried that her mother had saved up so much money to buy it. He said he would fix it and asked if she seriously thought he could do it. Kururu said he'd make it even tougher and stronger, but she replied that she liked it just the way it was. He offered to take the pass and return to the road. He thought his heart was still bleeding. The hero gave them 2 gold coins as promised and introduced himself as Kururi Helan. The merchant said he was happy to receive any advice and that he should remember the girl's name and face. She asked him what he would do with the gold coins, and he replied that he would send them home to his family. The young man said that he could not accept this, since she had earned this money, but she replied that she had nothing else to pay with. She thanked him and said she would send the coin to her family. He thought it was obviously the best choice. She said that someday in the future she would repay him 100-fold, and that she would never forget her debt. He suggested going to the academy and having some fun there. They admired the size of the academy, calling it huge. They were told that new students could fill out paperwork here and that there was an indoor building for girls. Kururu thought that was it for now, but he still needed to put everything away. He was tired and decided to put it off until tomorrow. He realized that the academy was damn huge, and everywhere he looked there were huge buildings. And I thought what a wonderful feeling it was to be back to blacksmithing after these few days. He thought it was not a wall, but a giant. He introduced himself as Kururi. Helan asked if he and his neighbor were the same age, noting how deep his voice was. The neighbor said he was from Wing 1 to 2, the son of a royal knight, Captain Vane Lot, and his family owned the Helens' territories. He apologized, and said he was here again. The neighbor said that he was confused by their conversation, and forgot to tell him this. There was a loud knock. He said that since childhood he had been seeking strength and honing his sword skills, and at his father's insistence, he went to this academy to develop his character. Kururi said that he could finally see his face and suggested that they sit anywhere. He wondered why he had brought him inside, and why he was now right behind him. The young man thought that this was the worst position for a conversation, since he sat down right behind him. He was afraid that if he answered incorrectly, he would be hacked to death or thrown away like trash, since he could not see his face and could not understand what he was thinking. The hero said that he was repairing his friend's sword and wanted to return it in better condition, and if anything rude was found in his actions, he could speak up without hesitation. He shouted at him to go away, as he didn't know what to talk to him about, and that he never divided food into favorites and unfavorites. Kururi realized that he was a good man, but he had nothing to talk about with him, and that he would have too many acquaintances to be polite to everyone. He said hello. He asked him if he was expecting the first rays of the sun, and he invited him in. And he said that he would like to take him somewhere as a thank you for keeping him company yesterday, and have breakfast there. He greeted Iris and said that here he was. She said she was worried about being allowed into the boys' dorm, but before school started she simply walked inside. Iris introduced herself to Wayne Lot, who said that Iris had said that she wanted to go somewhere today, and if he wanted to go with them, then the conversation would at least go some way. She asked where the academy library was, and said she wanted to visit it. He thought it was a shame. He said that he had finished her sword, and she thanked him, saying that she had sent the gold one to her family. Kururi thought that one way or another, Iris was truly a beauty. She blushed, saying it was the first time she had been called beautiful, and he replied that he had only pointed out the obvious. He thought that if he thought about it that way, he was a real seducer, and told Kururi that it was time to move out. He said that in the north, crops grow food, but people don't eat much grain and vegetables. Kururi, however, thought that in this vast field of grass, things might not be so bad. He said that there is raw meat, and this is what is called human ingenuity. The man explained that by eating raw meat one could obtain some of the essential substances contained in plants, and that was how the people of the north survived. He understood where he was going with this, and that they were known to rarely get sick and live a long time. The student said he wanted him to try it, but Kururi asked to go home, as the story was beyond his strength. He exclaimed what a beautiful place it was, and thought that he wished he hadn't killed their breakfast right in front of him. He asked what it meant to look into an animal's eyes, and whether it was some kind of joke or something to tell. Another said that if you look into an animal's eyes before slaughter, you'll think of its face while you eat. He screamed not to be killed, but they told him that the tastiest thing was the offal, and that he should try it. She told him to imagine that Rasha was treating him to berries, taking the tastiest one and even removing the leaf. Iris told him he couldn't refuse, and that he should just think of those bloody guts as a berry. He thought about how soft the taste was, and whether it was really so delicious that tears came to his eyes. He said it was the first time someone had ever expressed their gratitude like that. Kururi said he had never had friends before, but he thought they would get along, and now they were connected by sheep intestines. He said he visited every room to introduce himself, but it didn't seem like he made friends with anyone from Wings 1/3 tree. The hero said that it was very difficult to make friends with everyone, and that he shouldn't worry about it. He asked if he was surprised by the difference that people are capable of loving and hating each other, and it is not every day that he thinks about such things. Kururi said he was preparing for tomorrow's placement tests, because he studied and trained every day as a child. He said that he would try to do the best he could, and that the best would go to Class A, if nothing unusual happened. The student shouted, "Excuse me. Kururi, Dono lived in this room." The guy thought he had nothing against Wayne, but he was being completely serious. The girl said that although she cannot see his face, she believes that he is favorably disposed towards Kururi Helan Dono. The man replied that he was not Kururi and told her to leave. She called him a scoundrel and asked why he was in Kururi's room, suggesting that he was up to no good. Kururi came running and asked why they were fighting. The man told him to go inside and handle it himself, as someone had been very rude. The girl introduced herself as Crossy. Amarelle said it was such an honor to meet him and that he looked just as she had imagined. She asked if she could become his student. The girl said that she knew about his talents in wielding a sword and magic, and she wanted to have the same power, and asked him to teach her the secrets. The man told her to leave if she was finished, and that if she continued like this, he would get into trouble someday. The other girl said that he didn't have a chance, and that this titan would eat him. Crossy said they were the same age, and he asked why she wanted to become his apprentice. She explained that she had met Iris Dono by chance, who said he was the kind of person she should definitely get to know. She added that she needed to become stronger. The man asked why the girl was looking for power, and she became indignant, calling it chauvinism. She screamed that she was not a girl, but a boy. He said he could only share what he had done and studied himself, and asked if that would satisfy him. He replied that that was exactly what he had hoped for. He agreed to accept him as a student, and he promised to give his all and surpass all the limits of his body. The young man said that with his physique, even if he could learn magic, it would be difficult to learn fencing, and if he wanted to be stronger, he would first need to train his body. He shouted that he was not going to accept his orders, and that his teacher was Kururi Dono. Wayne said to stop staring and asked if he was in love with him. Kururi, however, said he needed to train his body first. The young man said that one way or another, he needed to maintain flexibility while increasing his strength, and that if he built up his muscles, the strength would come. He told him to pay attention to his posture, start running in a week to improve his endurance, and until then, improve his flexibility. He said that whatever he said should be taken as his words and told him to spread his legs wider. He screamed at him not to touch his thighs, but they told him that he was a man. Instructor Michelle Wu welcomed everyone to the entrance exams. She said their physical test today was a 10-kilometer run and that it would be a piece of cake. Wayne told the other one that if he couldn't touch, he wouldn't be able to help him. Eliza DeVille. He thought about how to approach her and decided to just say hello. In the game, she was in Class A and had finished first in the marathon, and her 4 knights were also accompanying her. One of the girls said to another from the road, calling her a fan. She said that she was so delighted with Eliza-sama that she was speechless, and told her to just sit down. Kururu said that no matter what you look at, her face and appearance, she is a very attractive girl. She thanked him for his words and said that now she needed to prepare, and if he would forgive her, they agreed to both try. The hero thought that she was one of those who would bully Iris, and that his most important task in this academy was to stop her without damaging her dignity. He decided that he needed to stay in charge at any cost, and that this time he would most likely come in second. She said he seemed to still have some strength left in him. The hero saw Iris and Eliza running. He wanted to yell at Iris to lose because if she took first place she would be bullied, but he couldn't. Eliza passed by a little earlier. The girl said that Eliza did a great job. He thought that there was nothing he could do about it, since for a commoner her talents allowed her to enter school, and that she had done excellently in all the tests. He decided to look at Wayne's result, and thought that it must be better than he expected, and that he knew it. Crossy was not placed in another class, because his physical test was 122, and his written test was 114. He said he would try harder next time. Wayne said that Kururi would help him improve his studies, and he would take care of his physical training, and that a man shouldn't eat vegetables so easily. He said that he had surpassed him in his studies, and that he had done everything he could, but he was more interested in how he knew his name. The guy replied that he was glad to meet him, and he wondered what that awkward pause was about. He told Kururi-isan to talk another time. The girl said that she took first place, and that in the future he would achieve great heights and would be able to thank her. She asked Eliza why she had such a sour face. Eliza replied that she didn't know the scientific name of vitamin C and ran away. He thought that he never thought that vitamin C was ascorbic acid, and that he didn't know it either. The hero said that he made a good sword. Isn't it a masterpiece? He thought that if he was not mistaken, small monsters should live in this forest, and he saw a rotting demon. He decided to test the sword on him, although it was not worth fighting a poisonous monster, and used materialization. Vegetable monsters have appeared. He said goodbye to them and rode away. as one must be careful not to touch the poison. The young man told the boys that it was time to say goodbye. He said he hadn't expected to meet her there, and she replied that she wanted to pick some wild vegetables. Iris said that it was a good meeting today, and that he was very polite and it would be nice to live nearby someday. The girl said that they both had good meetings today, and that she would be careful, but he looked lonely. Kururi said that telling her would help her deal with her feelings, but she said it was a fight and telling her wouldn't be enough. She said to move forward. The director said to stop making long speeches and enjoy the performance that the senior students had prepared. One guy was in Class A with Wayne and Crossy was in Class C. He thought that he wished Crossy was in the same class with them. He saw the prince and Rain, Eliza and Iris, but he didn't see the fangirl. The girl said, "Okay, everyone take your seats." Teacher Michelle Wu introduced herself and explained how the classes would proceed. The boy thought he'd understood more from the booklet than from the long speech. One guy offered to introduce another to a collector of magic swords. Amari said she would be teaching them herbalism, which requires a lot of practice. He figured he needed knowledge about how to make money, not theoretical lessons. She said herbs are inexpensive, and her goal is to expand the number of herb varieties that can be easily grown by anyone. The girl introduced herself as Toto Gap, and said that she was interested in him. She said she wore it to keep people from avoiding her, but she was glad he was interested in herbs and wanted him to look at her research. The hero asked if this wasn't a herbalism class, and she replied that these herbs were bred by her, and this was her personal territory. He admired the beauty of the flowers, and she said that she had already tested them and they had a certain effect. She said there was some grass in there that would make your stomach churn and something that would make you feel like you were in heaven. The girl said that she wanted him to help her sell all these herbs. He said that he was a nobleman, but the fourth son of a family with small territories, and in the future he would need enough money. Kururi said that his lands were famous for their hot spring and that money could be made from such herbs, but it had to be without any side effects. They decided their goal was to have the beauty plant completed before summer break in 3 months, and he would stop by several times a week. The young man thought she was crying. He asked if he could sit there, but she told him not to sit near her. The hero said that if something happened between them, he could tell her from him, but she replied that it was none of his business. She said that she was expelled from Eliza-sama's group, and according to the tests, she ended up in Class E. The girl screamed that there were no such things for her. He said that if she didn't mind, they could be friends and that it would be better than crying alone. She said that if he thinks about something else while he works, he might get hurt. He thought that the guests had not been very modest lately, and, letting the guest in, asked how things were going. Eliza wished him a good day. The elf greeted Kururi-sama and asked if Marime-sama was there. He asked if she had any business with her, adding that he himself had no business as such. She explained that Marime was her follower, and although they were now separated, she worried when she suddenly disappeared. She turned to Marime-san for confirmation. He jumped up and asked Eliza what she was going to do with her after this. Eliza said they were leaving, and Marime, looking out, agreed. Eliza replied that, of course, she would punish her. She added that it was only natural to train a stray dog, and he, as a nobleman, should understand that. She asked what kind of punishment they were talking about, and added that it was none of his business, as it was their personal matter. He countered that Marime-san was in his room, and he couldn't just let her be taken away. Marime, if she understood everything. Marime, with tears in her eyes, replied that of course she did, since she served Eliza-sama. He told Eliza to wait, as she needed to learn to understand other people's pain. She asked him to shut up, but he replied that he was saying this for her own good, and told her to study the word sympathy. He asked her to stop bullying people, saying that wasn't her true nature. Then he used his super move, the friendship flick. Eliza burst into tears, complaining that it hurt, and that even her father didn't dare raise his hand to her. She threatened to tell her father everything. Marime, horrified, asked what he had done to her beloved Eliza-sama. She then pounced on him, telling him there was no need to thank him. One student whispered to another that it was astonishing how he'd angered the girl, since even Prince Ark wouldn't speak to her so harshly. He asked him to stop, as they were in class. The other replied that he couldn't handle her and asked the first to be quiet so he could hear the teacher, to which the teacher yelled for them both to be quiet. She thought that, if she remembered correctly, Rain came from a family of farmers, but he didn't advertise it. He lost his parents as a child and met the prince by chance while living with his grandfather, ending up in the capital as the prince's friend and follower. His interlocutor noticed that the teacher had finished, and they could now talk, adding that it was time for practice, and thought to himself about his "I see right through you" smile. The second student asked to be spared the conversation about Eliza. Rain said he preferred working alone for concentration, but added that this was his first autopsy and he was a little nervous, suggesting they do it together. Kururi agreed, admitting he was also nervous. Kururi said that the first step was to cut open the stomach, and this turned out to be unexpectedly difficult. He said it was a heart. His partner noticed that Kururi-kun had cut out the heart and was so sure, and suggested that the stories of flaying hadn't disgusted him like he had, expecting him to incur Eliza's wrath. His partner asked him if he had any skills and if he wanted to become a doctor, adding that he reeked of money. Kururi replied that he was too close and that he was indeed strange, but that he was becoming more interesting each time, just like with Eliza. Rain said that Kururi saw him as wanting to become a doctor in the future. He suggested that, although their motives might differ, they should study together, as he wanted to talk to him more. He thought his partner had called the first prince selfish. His partner, however, said he was always around Ark, who was a very selfish guy and had no intention of making friends with others, and added that Kururi didn't have to talk to him only during class. Kururi thought he really said that. What a psycho. His partner noticed that something interesting had happened while they were talking about the narcissistic prince, and asked Kururi-kun if he knew a girl named Iris. Kururi said that would conclude the autopsy. Rain slapped him on the back, calling him merciless, but adding that that was why he loved him, to which Kururi replied that he didn't mean it that way. He said Kururi had a talent for being a doctor. He noted that he had excellent technique and clean movements, and that he was good at handling once living flesh, but something seemed off about him. Rain said he thought Kururi needed more practice to get better. He added that he thought Kururi was better suited for the job, especially given his determination. He said that was true, but they also breed and kill other animals for food, and he could accept that. But while they study it to save lives, they also take others, like in this autopsy, and that's difficult for him. He said he wanted to be a doctor, but he felt guilty about them. After all, after they were done, these animals would just be thrown away, and that would be it. Kururi said that, in any case, the instruments here were dull and awkward, and that suturing was also difficult, and perhaps he should make new ones. Rain agreed that was true, and Kururi advised him to keep working toward his goal and get used to it, since there are many different types of doctors. Someone asked him what he planned to do with it, and if he could take it. Kururi replied that he wanted to bury it himself, to which he was told, "Do whatever you want." His friend offered to help him dig the hole. Rain said he'd probably keep doing it as long as he felt guilty, and he thought it was a good thing. Kururi asked if he'd help him, to which he replied, "Of course." He thought he was drinking coffee on a holiday morning while reading his book. It was a wonderful, relaxing time. He wondered why anyone would need a book called Applied Curses, since from what he knew, anyone can do it easily. He thought it was creepy. He wondered who might have taken it, maybe Iris. He found a book called Potato Growing Skills, but it only contained volumes 1 and 3, with only volume 2 missing, which he found interesting. She asked him what he was reading, and he replied, "The Origin of the Kudan Nation." She said she too was shocked when she first came here, because it was such a huge place. She said he was such a learning geek, Kururi, and she was sure his book would be amazing. He wondered if, judging by her reaction, she hadn't been the one who'd picked up the second book, and what had happened to her promise not to laugh. He apologized for disturbing her, and said they'd see each other. The hero thought that if it wasn't Iris, then Wayne was the only one he could think of, although he was sure Wayne could read books about potatoes. He wondered where the hell the other book was. He asked, seriously, realizing it was Eliza. The young man thought she definitely liked potatoes with butter, which was quite logical. He asked her what she was laughing at and whether she had seen him. She accused him of spreading rumors to make people hate her. He replied that he didn't mean it that way. Iris said that as long as she had the book in her hands, she could send him to the next world. He was shocked that she would use it on him and asked her to wait. She said she was interested, and since it was true, she suggested they talk about potatoes. He thought, imagining people eating potatoes with butter at the hot springs. Eliza, however, thought she was wrong. She asked him if he knew what she called people like him. The girl said that if he wanted to know about potatoes, one day he would burn. She said she was surprised, however, that he was interested in potatoes, but asked him not to tell anyone. She added that he didn't want others to find out, and that she would leave now. He asked her not to curse him because he was afraid. She replied that she would do whatever she wanted. Someone grabbed him and told him he was still a study lunatic and had no idea what he'd been reading last night. He asked Wayne what he'd done. He asked her name and gender. The cat replied that cats without owners don't have names, which is common sense, but she's a girl, and he's being rude. He asked if Neko-sensei was a magic teacher, and if she could use it. The man asked their names, and they introduced themselves as Kururi and Wine, and he said he would remember them. Sensei said she would allow them to participate in her research group if they showed potential. The man suggested they study for a while, as classes hadn't started yet. Sensei said it wasn't pretty enough, but since it was a beginner-level spell, it passed. Sensei said they first needed to examine the power of their magic and understand its quality by practicing changing it. She thought Kururi would be a good fit for the group and said that even though the members were unusual, he would fit right in. Sensei told one girl that she had it too, and the other that she had potential. Kururi thought they were both amazing and that Neko-sensei taught very seriously. Sensei said he was too excited and needed to focus better instead of walking around touching things. Kururi thought it was all too serious and wondered what he'd gotten himself into. The cat told them to wait, as the boy Ark was still looking for a way here. She thought they'd invited someone she didn't want to see, the first prince. Sensei said that today she would teach them how to do it. She said she would teach them both her unique transformation magic. She added that she teaches it to a few students each year, whom she admires, but few succeed. Kururi asked if that's why Sensei looked like a cat, to which she replied that was her true form. She then instructed them to envelop their bodies in magic, sensing it around them. Sensei told Vane that he was young and it shouldn't be a problem, but he needed to release more magic. Vane thought that if Kururi could do it, so could he. Sensei said that everything was fine and told them to try to transform the hand. Sensei explained that they changed their essence through magic. She said that once activated, they only need to maintain their magical form, changing it as they wish. Vane told Kururi that he was still young and that the magical power covering the body was not the same as Merceria Tia. Kururi wondered if this dirty joke was too cruel. Kururi exclaimed that he'd done it and thanked his sensei, who thought he was a genius. Sensei remarked that the Ark boy was a normal guy, neither good nor bad, despite being a prince. Sensei said that was enough for today, and would teach the next step later. Wayne suggested Kururi celebrate, and he agreed. Vane declared that even though Kururi was currently superior, he would eventually prevail. Kururi replied that it made no difference to him. Wayne asked Kururi what her relationship was like with Iris, thinking to himself how the situation irritated him. Kururi replied that they were friends. Kururi said he was joking, and Wayne asked what he meant. Kururi replied that they were just friends, which Wayne didn't believe. Vane thought it couldn't be that Kururi was an ordinary guy, since even someone as picky as Iris thought so highly of him. Kururi wondered if Iris really thought of this annoying guy as her prince. Kururi said he wanted to go to his room and finish his forging, asking what he was doing. Kururi mentioned swords and other weapons. Vane wondered if they were similar to his magical swords. He said that was why Kururi should come with him. He said that every sword there was made by a brilliant blacksmith, and if you sold one, you could live comfortably for the rest of your life. Kururi thought it was impossible not to help in such a situation. Wayne shouted with delight that he had done it. He said he was going to the herbalism room. Iris replied that she was interested and asked if she could go see it, to which he replied, of course. Iris admired the large silver vine, and Kururi was surprised to see another intruder, who turned out to be Iris. He told her she was harmless, but she replied that it was up to her to decide. Iris admired the enormous silver vine, and another girl asked how she grew it, suggesting she could do the same with vegetables. She added that it was the result of several crosses. She asked to be told how to do it, and another girl replied that anything was possible. A third said she was okay with it. Iris enthusiastically declared that then she too would be a herbalist. He wondered what kind of girl Iris was, and that she meant no harm. Another girl said she'd grown a medicinal plant here, not to mention what Iris had asked for. The girl explained that these petals restore skin cells. She added that after rubbing, the effect lasts up to 10 hours, even while sleeping. A friend said that the skin becomes soft and smooth, with a pleasant aroma, and exclaimed that she could sell it. He suggested they take this as a starting point and get everything in order this summer. She agreed, saying that, although there were some flaws, they would achieve a better result. The prince thought he'd haughty hated him at first, but it was good they were working together. The other boy said he'd called Neko's teacher and they'd teamed up because he too wanted to study with Kururi-san. He said that even though he was first, Ark had cut in line first, which was unfair. He invited Kururi to come to his room after class, adding that he could come before nightfall. He said the tool he was using now had a blunt blade, but the blade would cut through things and tear them apart with force. His friend exclaimed that it was amazing and that Kururi-kun concentrated in a completely different way than in class and had the soul of a worker. Kururi thanked him, saying he could concentrate better in class without distractions. His friend replied that he couldn't do that and was amazed. His friend said there was nothing surprising about it. He added that he had never known such sharpness before, and it was like a jewel with a cutting edge compared to other tools. His friend called Kururi-kun amazing. He replied that it was more likely that he had made him so through hard work. He said he had nothing, but since meeting Kururi, amazing things have been happening to him, and his dream of becoming a doctor is getting closer. He added that he couldn't help but have fun. He asked for one of those, saying he'd put in so much effort. He added that if Kururi wanted it, he'd ask for it. The girl greeted him. He asked who it was. She called him by name and told him not to stand there like a pillar of iron, but to move on. She asked if it was natural for him to know who she was. He apologized, saying he had no memory of anyone like her. She said he really didn't know her, and that was unexpected. She hugged him, asking how he should be punished, and he asked her not to scare him like that. Vane asked what had happened to Kururi and why he looked like he'd seen a ghost. Sensei told him to continue their investigation where they left off. Sensei said that last time they used one hand, but today they used both. Vane and Kururi were impressed. He asked if they were dried fish, and Kururi replied that Wayne had caught some and dried them, and he decided to treat Sensei to some because they were delicious. Sensei replied that such a thing shouldn't be given to such a refined lady as herself. Kururi asked her to shut up. She replied that she needed more, just a little more. Sensei called him a good boy, saying that since he'd already managed it, he was truly a talented young man. She told him to add a tail and gradually change each part, relaxing his concentration. Sensei was surprised that he was the first person to master the transformation so quickly, and it was an astonishing achievement. She now ordered him to compress his magical power. Wayne asked to be taught this trick. Sensei said his abilities were still unstable and he needed practice to transform for 1 to 2 hours. A few days later, on a weekend, he thought that there was no one there, and he could try to transform on the street. The elf told him to get up. She said that he could go wherever he wanted, and sleep whenever he wanted, and added that she wanted to stay with him a little longer. She said she wished she were as free as he was, because she was like a bird in a cage. The cat thought the cat was just as free. She asked if he would be her friend. He asked her if she was okay. The girl was surprised to see the hero. He smiled at her and asked if she was okay. She called his name. The next moment, she ran after him. The next day. Kururi says he somehow managed to escape yesterday and today. Things can't go on like this. Someone slipped a letter under his door. He thinks about what's most likely a curse inside. He understands that he shouldn't hesitate. Nothing will happen, be it a demon, a snake, or a tiger. He must act. He won't be touched by such things. In the letter, the girl writes that she hopes the boy is okay. She couldn't sleep all night thinking about what happened. Her father is the respected prime minister of this country, and he loves her very much. The hero wonders if she really scribbled it. No, more likely she squeezed it onto the paper. He poured himself some tea and continued reading. Eliza writes that something very sad recently happened between them, and she hopes it's in their mutual interests to keep it a secret. She suggests they forget what happened. She'll save her honor, he'll save his life, and both will benefit. Kururi leaned against the sofa. He realized he'd received a threatening letter. It said that if he spoke, it would be his undoing. He writes back. Surprisingly, he's fine. He hopes she's feeling better. He was worried when he heard she was feeling ill. He knew her father was the prime minister, an important figure in their country's political life. He asks her not to worry. He sent the letter and sat down on the couch. He accepted her terms even if it wasn't the best solution, at least for now. Suddenly, he heard a strange popping sound. This letter came from Eliza. Kururi has a feeling it's not a letter of reconciliation. The girl writes that she is convinced of the contents of his letters. He is indeed the son of a provincial nobleman. She hopes his memory matches his origins. The hero thought the content was good, but the tone was poor. The girl was currently enjoying tea until noon, and she'd be waiting for a reply the whole time. Even if he somehow remembered, that didn't necessarily mean he'd be able to tell everyone. Kururi realized that she needed proof that he could be trusted. There was also a note there about her being graceful and sweet, and he meant it wholeheartedly. She thinks that's probably not true. Those were just empty words. She asks for forgiveness. Even though the hero only paid a small compliment, the effect is stunning. So he decided to write back. The words she'd spoken had left a deep impression on him. So he confided his secret to her. In truth, he'd been a very overweight child a long time ago. He asked her to keep it a secret. He created a flower with magic and attached it to the letter. He writes that she is the sweetest and most graceful girl he knows, and that these are his true feelings. He hopes it will work. The answer came very quickly. The girl thanked him for the flower. She said it was beautiful. A flower unlike any other. A flower that represented her. She asked him to tell her its name, if he had one. His secret is also in good hands. She suddenly changed the volume again. Had she already forgotten about yesterday? He should be happy. He decides to write back. He writes that it would be his greatest pleasure to tell her that the flower's name is Envy, created from his imagination. In the language of flowers, it means a moment of small happiness. He's glad she likes it. The girl was sitting in a chair and received a letter. It says something about the incident. What happened is in the past. She can't wait to see him in class. The hero placed the mask on his face. He asked Toto what effect it had. He replied that he didn't know. They were getting hot. The guy asked why they were experiencing this here. He replied that it was a cool place. A pleasant breeze blows over him. 3 hours later. He took off his mask because it was very hot. His friend called him. He looked at him and was surprised. He said that he seemed to glow. He noticed that he did too. Their skin is like a baby's. The girl is terrified of her talent. Kururi noted that many problems can be solved with this. Add a cooling effect to the mask, and it will feel cool to the touch. He mentioned selling this batch, and then selling it refrigerated at a special price. Iris thought that sounded tempting. Suddenly, another girl appeared and remarked that they seemed to be having fun. The hero replied that they were experimenting. He then asked Iris about the vegetables. She replied that they had produced prototypes with human faces. Potatoes, leafy vegetables, root vegetables, vegetables, grains, and fruits grow, and all of them are 10 times larger. The girl asked which seeds he would plant first. Iris replied that she didn't know. The verification step was necessary for everyone. They were still prototypes. If they didn't sprout, it wasn't her fault. Kururi asked her if she would send some to her family. She confirmed. Even though Iris had entered a prestigious school, she hadn't changed a bit. He should learn from her. He decided to try planting these seeds. If everything worked out, he would be glad to receive some. Great thing, bro agreed. The young man began to materialize seeds, those invisible to the naked eye. Carrots with human faces leaped out of the ground. The young man thought it was another failure. However, the girl picked one up and told him he was cute. The hero was shocked. Another carrot fell. The girl picked it up and asked if it was okay. The other 2 fell too. They did this to attract the girl's attention. Kururi became angry with them and insulted them. Iris asked him if he needed herbicides. He replied that he didn't. A few days later, the hero enters the greenhouse and looks for Toto. But he's not there. This is strange, since he's usually the first one to show up. He decided to check the fields. He noticed the bitten carrots. He doesn't understand what's going on. The field was unexpectedly plowed. Who did this? Kururi can't understand who could have done this. Could it really have been done against Iris? Whoever it was, they won't forgive him. If they could somehow straighten things out, the lesson would be minimal. Then the hero remembered the experimental samples. He ran to check them, but it was too late. Unlike the others, this one is standing. The guy doesn't understand why during the break. Apparently, Iris wasn't the target. But then who was? And where did Toto go? Then Iris arrived. She asked why this had happened. Kururi answered something he himself hadn't yet figured out. The girl said it was terrible and everything was lost. She didn't want to see Kururi's sad face. She said she wouldn't forgive whoever did it. Then Toto appeared from behind the tree. He apologized to his friend. He told him that their precious prototype had been stolen, but they still had roots and seeds. They could replant them. They should succeed. The hero asked him what had happened, since he had no face. He replied that it was nothing special. Anyway, they needed to tidy up the garden. Break was starting soon. Iris called Kururi. He said he'd handle the inside, and she could clean up outside. He started cleaning up as well. The hero is interested in what really happened. The guy apologized again and said he had to get everything done before the break. Then there wouldn't be any problems. Kururi said he asked what really happened. Was there a reason he couldn't say? He apologized and said that after they left, he would start working on the plants again. He was truly sorry. The hero was wondering what to start. He believed there was a reason they couldn't talk. He said he'd stay a little longer and plant all the seeds today. Iris and Kururi could go home now. The hero said he would help. The girl supported him. The young man pointed out that the young lady had exams soon and that she should probably go study. She replied that she would stay too. They decided to try together. He said that one person was enough for the job. Kururi and Iris exchanged glances. They surrounded each other and suggested they try together. They couldn't leave things as they were. He's not old enough to figure this out on his own. But Todo won't talk about it. What should he do? The boy asked Kururi why he was so gloomy. He wasn't keeping his distance like he usually did. Did that mean he'd accepted him? The hero thought he didn't even have the strength to respond to his jokes. A classmate offered him information about the cause of the disorder in the garden. The young man became interested. Although he's not interested in him, the hero is surprised to hear about the information. Perhaps he's just a tool to him. Kururi asks for the information. The young man reads the document. He understood why Todo couldn't do anything. The culprit, Mori Gap's bandleader, Ryan Christopher, entered the garden at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Afterward, he stole some plants and left with the others who had destroyed the garden. Todo chased him, but he was beaten. With Mori at the head of the family and Todo merely an offshoot, he couldn't afford to challenge their high status. He was worried about harm to his family. This is his report. His friend didn't ask for a reward for his previous report because of the friendship between Eliza and Kururi, but now he'd like to receive it as soon as possible. The young man understands that this is not the time to argue. This information was very useful. He doesn't think he can openly resist, but he can't forgive it either. What should he do? Kururi went looking for Mori Gap. He asked a passerby about his whereabouts, and he found this guy. The hero fought the urge to smash his face, but not now. This is also for Todo's sake, so he shouldn't be recognized. What if the boys went somewhere? He decided to follow them. He couldn't understand why they were in such a place. Then he noticed their prototype. The boys started discussing Todo's reaction. It was so funny how he tried to cling to that flower. It was so stupid. Kururi was hearing about it for the first time. Mori heard that he was going to put them in jail again. He wants to visit him once. His friends supported him. The hero can't stand it anymore. He wants to share with him the nightmare he's been through. He came out and asked if they really thought it was funny. He was shaped like a carrot with a face. He would make sure his nightmares stayed with them. To identify himself when asked is called mercy. He's the plant he destroyed in the garden. The boys say it's simply impossible. In fact, people that age might even believe such stories. He shows a little violence. He punched one guy in the face. Then he hit the guy in the stomach. Mori didn't stay away and started hitting the carrots. But the hero didn't lose his composure and knocked him to the ground, putting his hand behind his back. Then the boy decided to use magic. The hero realizes things are bad. His form will soon fade. Mori bets that Todo put him up to it. Kururi's form faded. The enemy recognized him. The young man said that Todo hadn't told him anything. It was just his actions. He replied that he would beat him anyway after he was done with him. The young man said that it didn't matter what he did to him, but he shouldn't touch Todo. However, Todo didn't care. He would beat him up, and then Todo. The next moment, the young man struck him in the face. He says that if they try anything funny against them again, he won't forgive them. He swears on his own name that he'll kill them without any regret. This also applies if they cause Todo any trouble. He tells them not to dare touch his things again. He will also finish them off if they act against them behind his back. The boys got scared and ran away. Kururi sank to the ground, thinking about how this could cause problems for Todo in the future. Later, the young man says that he is very sorry. Todo was surprised to hear he'd been in the punishment room. He was amazed his friend had managed to handle 3. It was reckless, but he was truly brave. The boy apologized. He knew what he did was wrong. Toto was surprised at first, but he was not so stupid as to be angry with a friend who defended him in a fit of anger. Kururi mentioned that this could cause him problems. He replied that he wouldn't die from it. It was true that there would be trouble, but not that big. And he felt much better knowing they got what they deserved. The hero still doesn't know what to do. He's still in the punishment room. Suddenly, Eliza enters. She said she planned to meet him anyway and had been told to bring him some food. She also thought he might be bored, so she brought her favorite book. He thanked her. Suddenly, Iris came in and said she'd brought him the notebooks he'd forgotten from class. She'd heard about what happened today from Ray, and she didn't think he was wrong. She thought he'd been cool. Eliza agreed. Iris thinks he did something right. That's what she believes. Eliza believes it more. The boy was in shock. Then his friends arrived. The young man thought he was saved. After the many events that had occurred at the academy, time had ticked especially quickly, and rumors of what had happened slowly dissipated after the exams. Many students have been studying desperately this year, and the next exam will determine their next class. As expected of Iris, Eliza is 1 grade behind her. She's in 17th. This is due to her medical studies. As a result, they will have a 2-month summer break. The guy said that the prince tried to invite Iris on vacation with him, but she turned down the offer and he is now depressed. He is really pathetic. Kururi thinks about how, in the original story, he remembers her staying here for the summer. It's pretty lonely, being here for 2 months all by yourself. He wants to visit her. Iris asks the young man to look at this. These plants are promising. The boy asked her how she planned to spend the summer. She replied that she planned to stay here all summer and tend these plants. The hero knew it. He invited her to go with him to Helen's domain. Iris said everything was fine. She knew the place was amazing, but she dreamed of visiting it with the money she'd earned. Kururi suggested she go there for a part-time job. If she could earn money in the process, that would be wonderful, and she could also send money to her family. The girl began to consider this. Then she bowed and said she would work hard and not cause any trouble. She asked him to take care of her for these 2 months. She plans to continue working together. The hero asks her not to worry about problems. He decides to go invite the others. They asked Wayne about it. It was a short conversation, but it looks like he's coming. His power will definitely help them. They somehow met Crossy, but he's busy this summer. The hero hopes he'll go, but he'd be of little use. And then they, together with Iris and Wayne, headed to Helen's domain. Crossy said he came to say goodbye to them today. He really does need to go back to his hometown during summer break. He thanked them for the hero's lessons and asked them to take care of themselves. The same goes for Wayne. Kururi thought it was a shame Crossy couldn't come with them. Wayne would be a little lonely. Iris called out to the hero and said they could already see the city from here. The guy looked out of the window and said that they were almost there. They left the academy about half a day ago. The closer they get to the city, the more excited they become. The hero had heard there was an excellent seafood restaurant in the city. Wayne noted that such places evoke good memories. Iris feels like she's already sickened by the number of good memories ahead. The guy tells her not to worry about it. He thinks the best way to express his gratitude to Kururi is to go where he wants to go. The hero agreed with Wayne. After all, he was learning something from them, gaining something, and wanted to repay them. The girl apologized for her rudeness. He told her they were friends and she didn't have to be so polite. They arrived in the city. They dined. They ate boiled fish. It was delicious and filling. Wayne asked about their journey onward in the carriage. Kururi replied that it would be better to spend the night here. It was late, and the horses were tired. There was a hotel for them here. But what to do now? Iris suggested a stroll around the city. He agreed, and invited Wayne. He also agreed. The owner was busy settling accounts, so they could escape before he noticed them. The girls were discussing a couple of handsome men who had dropped by. They offered to give them a massage. Kururi said he wouldn't mind a massage. His friend agreed. He, too, needed to give his muscles a rest. Iris was against it. She asks them not to go there. Wayne doesn't understand why she's so angry. Kururi doesn't either. He suspects it's because of those women. Suddenly, some man called the guys over and told them they had a house full of cuties. But he didn't have time to finish. Iris hit him on the head, and he fell unconscious. The hero asks her to calm down and asks what he did to her. The guy doesn't understand what's wrong with her. She asks him to forget about this city. She doesn't like it. She realized they liked it when there were a lot of girls around. He replied that he didn't, and added that it was more fun with her. Iris apologized for losing her temper and ruining the whole walk. The guys asked her not to apologize and to look back. A view of the city opened up before them. This was the place they had just visited. From above, it was so beautiful and not at all as bad as she thought. The whole city was shining. The hero suggested they go back to the hotel. First, they'll take a bath. There aren't many people here. Iris heard that they'd been assigned separate rooms. The owner said he'd find them 3 good rooms. They arrived at the separate bathing area. The girl asked the guy not to peek. The hero was thinking about something else. But he's not a fool. He's a gentleman after all. He's a man, after all. He can't miss this chance. He will reach his goal. The wall is 2 meters high. He stacks the boxes. They fall apart very easily. He certainly wouldn't reach the top of the wall this way. Suddenly, he slipped and fell painfully. It's all more complicated than he thought, and nothing else comes to mind. Could this wall really have been built specifically to keep people from peeping? He has no chance here. This wall is too high for him. Wayne asked the guy what he was doing. Was he dizzy from the heat? He replied that everything was fine and asked him to ignore it. The guy said it was very relaxing. Iris probably likes it too. Meanwhile, the girl says it's relaxing. The heroes are driving through the city and their carriage stops. The man offered them to try their bread. They entered the bakery. It smelled delicious there. The baker said their shop was famous for its baked goods. A little girl came out and greeted her friends. Her name was Alice. She said that her dad's bread was incredibly delicious and suggested they try it. Kururi asked about what's called kalib, if it's just bread. If it's just bread. The man replied that it's very long. That's why it's called kalib. The hero agreed to take 4. He asked if they had a place to eat. The man thanked him for his purchase and led him to the dining area. The guy had a strange feeling, as if this girl was trying to chat him up. Iris noted that it was bread. Kururi explained that they called it bread because of its length. They began to eat the bread. Iris wished them bon appetit. The bread turned out crispy. It really is delicious. The heroes agreed. Suddenly they noticed something sweet. Honey was flowing out of it. It was magnificent. The hero couldn't even describe it. He says the bread tastes like honey. Wayne and Iris confirmed this. The baker thanked them for waiting and offered them black tea. Kururi thought it was just in time, and the amount of lemon juice in it was just right to refresh. He just didn't know how long he could keep this honey going. Alice asks them to wait and believe in bread. The hero thinks that no matter what she says, if he eats even a little more honey, he'll feel bad. But he can't be so rude to a little girl. He decides to take another bite. Then the bread turns salty. At first, there's a soft, crunchy sweetness. Then the sweetness is enhanced by honey, and then the black tea and those salty notes arrive at the end. This bread is too perfect. Iris noticed something had fallen out. That piece of paper with the inscription that they finished the bread. For some reason, even such a simple phrase makes her happy. This bread brings joy not only to the stomach, but also to the heart. The hero is amazed at how much love was put into this bread. He wants to read his own. Wayne's inscription says that his belly is full and his heart is content. He's just the picture of kindness. And the hero's inscription says that from today on, he's a bread fucker. Alice told him he has a winning ticket. He's curious about what he won. Kururi says that it was very tasty, and he wanted to buy 4 more to eat on the way. However, the baker said that, unfortunately, due to the bread's increased popularity, they have no choice but to limit the number of orders per customer. So, they can't sell them anything. The hero felt sorry. He thanked him for their delicious bread. The friends decided to leave. Alice turned to her father. She told him they'd enjoyed it so much. Not selling them anything else would be cruel. The man said they had no choice. The girl knows, but her brother's face when he pulled out the winning ticket. He was so happy. It awakened in her a sense of pride that she works in this shop. She wants to sell them bread. She wants them to pick as much as they want. The wife turned to her husband and said she'd never seen her daughter like this. She had a keen eye. She begged him to let her do it just this once. The baker noticed that his daughter had become quite grown up. The man said they had 33 loaves of bread left. They could buy as many as they wanted. The hero muttered that if it weren't for Alice, they would never have realized the magnificence of bread, and wouldn't even have been able to buy any more. It seemed like it was time for him to take the stage. Kururi decided to take all 33. Wayne asked what they should do with it. 33 pieces is quite a lot. Iris said she'd help them finish it. The guy doesn't understand why he bought all 33. It's as if he's completely lost his mind at that moment. They noticed the river widening. Kururi said they were almost to Helen's lands. Next stop, Helen's estate. During a trip to Helen's domain, in the castle where Ark and the other Ark Kudans live, Rasha Kudan and Maria Kudan were arguing. Maria fell to her knees and began screaming about a stomachache. However, she is pretending. She is the princess of the Kudan family. She thinks that spending her vacation listening to boring chatter is boring, but simply running away is also not an option. It doesn't suit a princess. Rasha might be suspicious, but he shouldn't cause any problems. Summer vacation comes once a year. She's an honor student, always first in everything. Talented, athletic, everyone adores her. But her life is one big bore. Life without adventure is too boring. She doesn't even have a rival to compete with or have fun with. Rasha says they're going to Helen's domain. The girl thinks that she definitely needs to go there. Irina, the princess of a neighboring country, approaches Maria and asks how she's feeling. She suspects she's having intestinal problems. She thinks she's being cruel. Maria wanted to tell him he was fine, but the next moment, she started screaming in pain. Irina ordered a doctor to be called, and she would take care of her in the meantime. The girl thanked her, but said she shouldn't do anything until the doctor arrived. The princess replied that she couldn't do that. She decided to feel her stomach. It was slightly swollen. She advised her to cast aside her pride and pass gas. Maria thought that then her name would be tarnished by rumors of a stomachache. Rasha says he shouldn't worry so much about his sister. That's just the way she is. Irina asks what he's saying. He's her brother. He should worry about her too. There was tension between them. The girl mentally apologized to her brother. She needs to wait a little longer. If he sees her stomach ache out of the blue, things will get bad. The maid has brought a doctor. Maria doesn't think Princess Irina will bother her any longer. The doctor said he couldn't figure out the cause of their pain. He thought she'd have to stay in bed for a while. Now everyone knows for sure that she's lying in her room. Meanwhile, she'll quietly go with Rasha to Helen. All that's left is to send Irina and the others back, and then they can have fun. The girl said the pain had subsided a bit and she needed to rest. Princess Irina asked her to wait. She said she was still worried about the girl. She decided to escort her to her room. Maria tried to refuse, but the girl insisted. She said that in such a weakened state, they definitely needed an escort. Besides, she was a princess, another reason to keep an eye on her. The girl lies in bed, thinking about how kind and caring she is, yet so annoying at the same time. Irina says she's done the same thing many times before. The princess is perplexed. She knows the princess's stomach doesn't hurt at all. The princess tries to justify it, but she asks her not to worry. She's not going to pressure her. When she was little, she used that excuse many times too, because she was bored and wanted to leave. If she said that in front of everyone, it would cause problems. She's going to do the same thing. Maria smiled and suggested that her friend run away. Irina asked where they would go. She mentioned a place called Helen's Domain. Hot springs gushed there, and this summer, they apparently built a resort there to make it even more fun. She asked about Irina's wish. She agreed, but asked how they would escape. The girl replied that they would escape through the window. Maria doesn't understand what this feeling is. She's so excited. She's having so much fun. It's probably the first time in her life she's met someone she can have fun with. She feels alive next to her. Irina smiled and went down to her friend. They met with Rasha. The sister told her brother that she and Irina would be going with him. The boy started to worry. How could this be? She was, after all, the princess of a neighboring country. If she suddenly disappeared, all hell would break loose. Irina said everything was fine. She had permission to travel throughout Kudan for 2 months. The man who had been a troublesome enemy suddenly became a fellow adventurer. Now, no one can stop her. Irina asked him to take care of her. Maria plans to have a blast during the holidays. They decided to call each other by their first names. Rasha doesn't understand how they managed to escape from the nurses' quarters. There seems to be a guard at the door. Maria replied that they had climbed down from the window on a rope. Mom thought she wouldn't be able to leave. Irina said she hadn't had fun in a long time. Suddenly, someone asked to come with them. Some guy managed to run into the carriage and said that he was also going to Helen. The girl was thinking that now Rasha would have to keep an eye on 3 people at once. which meant they had a better chance of escaping. Irina asked what the girl was up to again. She told her friend to be ready to run at any moment. She would show her how princesses can have fun. She asked when they would do it. She replied that when the opportunity presented itself, they would jump out of the carriage together. Of course, they would still be found later, but they would have time to have fun together for a day or two. Irina said it would be exciting to jump out of the carriage at such speed. Maria said that if they jumped out now, they might break. They would wait until the carriage stopped. She knew the area better, so she was probably a better runner. Rasha mentioned that there seemed to be a rest area further down the road. They'd grab a bite to eat and then continue on. The girls thought this was their chance. It seemed everything was going according to plan. All that remains is to act. The guy said that the Helens' estate begins further down the road. The girls jumped out of the carriage. Now they had to run. Irina told her friend to take her wherever she wanted. Maria thinks it worked. She noticed that Russia is very naive. They did it. No one could stop her. Irina said her plan was brilliant. And her moves, too. What a nimble somersault. She replied that she'd practiced a lot. If her friend practices, she can do it too. Now they were going to the hot springs. Irina asked if she knew where it was. She replied that she had the map in her head. For some reason, every time Irina admires her, she feels good. Maybe this is what it means to be friends? Irina asked if they would really sleep on the street if they got lost. The girl asks her not to be afraid. She knows how to survive on the streets. They decided to go to the hot springs. They were full of beautiful flowers. So she should be ready. Sitting at the springs, Irina says that she didn't even know that such a place existed. Whoever created this place must be a wonderful person. Maria thinks it's wonderful that they were able to relax here. She heard that this was all the work of the son of the ruler of Heland. The girls began to splash in the water. Irina asked what they would do after they got out of the bath. The princess suggested something to eat. Irina said it was a good idea. Grandpa always scolded her for that. There was an entertainment area nearby. Maria would show her. And if you think about it, it's been a while since she's been out with other girls. It's kind of weird. But at the same time, it's incredibly fun. The girls bought 2 pork kebabs. The salesman treated Irina to another. She thanked him. Maria asked how she did it. The princess replied that men are easy to manipulate. You need to show them your sweetness. Maria doesn't know how to do that. Dad told her that if 2 people respect each other, they're friends. Irina thought they were friends from the start. When she's happy, she's happy, she's happy, and that's probably what friendship is. When she played a prank on Dad by painting his face, that was also fun. But this was a whole different kind of fun. The girl decided to show off what she was especially good at. They went to the shooting range. Maria started shooting. But the toy didn't fall. She started yelling at the salesman, saying it had fallen. It was fraud. He asked her to calm down. Irina asked him to try too. The princess thought about how she handled the gun like a novice. Where did she get such confidence? The girl fired. And she hit the salesman. Irina blushed and told the guy that she had been keeping an eye on him the whole time, which was why she had missed. He was embarrassed and decided to give her something. He handed her a hair clip. Maria said she was simply delightful. How had she come up with such a plan? She replied that it was easier than it seemed. Men are so easily distracted. They now have matching hair clips. This will be a good memory. They decided to go shopping. She was glad they would have good memories. But they were caught in a pavilion where you have to catch goldfish. It's funny, they were trying to catch something, but in the end they were caught. Let's go back a bit to when the princesses were still in the castle. Kururi is glad to be back. Iris says the river is so beautiful and that it's truly a wonderful place. Wayne suggests that the fishing here is excellent. He'd like to stay here longer and rest. The guy suggested they set up camp here. It might be chilly at night, but they had blankets. They'd catch some fish, fry them, and everything would be fine. The hero decided to make fishing gear. Wayne hauled in some firewood, and Iris brought some fishing line from the stagecoach. Then they bent hooks from the nails they had. They were barbless, admittedly, but they'd do. They managed to make fishing rods. Kururi asked what they would use. Wayne said he'd bite on anything that smelled good. They decided to try dried meat. They sat down and began fishing. The hero was delighted. Iris noticed that the boy now looked just like her grandfather. He replied that they were still on the edge of Helen's domain. She asked what the capital of the domain was like back then. Judging by his face, it was even more beautiful. He confirmed it. Kururi started getting a bite. He seemed to have caught a big one, but he missed it. Apparently, amateurs like them have a hard time catching fish with a barbless hook. The girl never got a bite, so he was lucky. The hero thinks that if he'd been smarter, he would have caught it, but at least now he'll have the motivation. Next time, he'll definitely catch it. Iris almost caught the fish, but it slipped off the hook. The guy grinned. Then the girl noticed that Wayne was missing and asked where he had gone. Kururi thought he'd gotten so caught up in fishing that he'd completely forgotten about him. He wasn't on the shore, he couldn't have fallen into the river, something was unsettling about him. Suddenly, the boy jumped out of the water with a huge fish. He hoped there would be enough for everyone. The hero replied that there was more than enough. It was getting late. They needed to light a fire. They began to set up their camp and talk about food. Then they went to bed. Iris remarked that the stars were very beautiful. Wayne remarked that she was beautiful too. Kururi and the girl were surprised, but he's already fallen asleep. The hero thinks that this was expected of him. He'll definitely be popular. Iris noticed that he's asleep. Kururi thought about how lonely Vane would be without Crossy. But he's having a great time. The girl wished she could be so honest too. The boy suggested they go to bed. He fell asleep with the thought that tomorrow he would finally return home. Having had a good night's sleep, they were refreshed and ready to move in the morning. They boarded the carriage and drove to his house. As they approached, people began to gather around. They recognized Kururi and ran out to greet him. Iris said she hadn't realized he was so popular. The hero is glad they haven't forgotten about him. But isn't that a bit unusual? He has a bad feeling about this. At first, he was a little confused by the people greeting him with such enthusiasm. But then he decided it was because they loved him. They arrived around noon. Kururi noticed that almost nothing had changed in his absence. Someone called him and rushed to hug him. The man was glad that the boy had returned. It seemed he wasn't crying from joy at all. The boy decided to introduce his friends, Iris and Wayne. They were his classmates at the academy. They'd be spending their summer vacation here. The man was pleased to meet them. Wayne greeted him. He flinched. Then he turned to Iris and suggested that she was dating one of them. She denied it. Kururi doesn't understand what her father is doing. They haven't seen each other in a while, of course, but he's acting really strange. He turned to her father and whispered that the girl has every chance of becoming queen. He asks her not to disgrace the family. And this tall man is the son of the commander-in-chief of the Imperial Army. A realization dawned on the man. He fell to his knees. The son asked his father what was wrong. He replied that he couldn't take it anymore. So much had been happening here lately. At this rate, even his heart wouldn't be able to handle it. Kururi asks him not to worry. While he's here, he'll help him sort out his affairs. His father knew his son wouldn't abandon him in times of need. But he's incredibly busy. He's already at his wit's end, so he'll leave everything to him. He'd done a lot of work before leaving. There was probably still a lot left to do. Dad decided to push it all off onto him. The hero told his father to go soak in the hot springs. He agreed and left everything to his son. The mansion is entirely his, and he'll go. Kururi is shocked. Dad, he meant it. It's too late to back out. He started this mess, now he's the one who has to clean it up. He told his friends he hadn't thought about work, so for now they can do whatever they want. He'll figure something out later. Wayne said he didn't have much to do, so he'd help him. The hero thanked him and decided to go see what needed to be done. For now, he decided to check what needed to be done. The resort is thriving, and many people have come to the city. But the infrastructure is insufficiently developed to accommodate all the newcomers. Moreover, most of them are poor and lack the means to build their own homes, so hygiene is a problem in the city. All problems arise from overpopulation. He didn't foresee this. As for the estate's development, everything is going well. Not everyone has a home, but everyone has a job. Hands are needed everywhere, so it's easy for newcomers to find work. Agriculture is also experiencing a boom thanks to this influx of helpers. The main problem now is building housing, but that requires money. And he also needs to look after the property. Building houses requires both people and money. It's all more complicated than he thought. He had no time to worry here. It was time for him to act. He decided to borrow money from the safe. Wayne announced that he had a visitor. It was Lotso. He was one of those who had helped him build the resort. They greeted each other. He could easily be called the most trusted man in their domain. The boy heard he was back and decided to stop by. He had brought something, reports and necessary information for the opening of the season. The young man invited him in. They discussed a lot of things before. He thinks they should talk about it. Lotso's timing couldn't have been better. He'd been planning something. He wants to use this money to build houses that people can get for free. Kururi asked him what he thought. He said that if that were the case, people who bought houses with their own money would start envying them. The hero agreed. The guy suggested not making the houses free, but simply selling them cheaper than usual. Then there would probably be few complaints. But then the hero would be the one in the red. The guy replied that it was no big deal. They decided to get down to business. Lotso would be in charge of recruiting builders. The boy will ask his brothers to do his work for him. As he left, Kururi thought that, as expected, he was simply magnificent. Then Iris and Vane entered. The girl asked if he had decided what to do. Wayne and Kururi would handle the tasks that required physical labor. He wanted to ask Iris to handle the paperwork. That day, they began implementing a large-scale plan. Requests to build a house seemed to come from almost everyone. And as rumors spread, the crowds grew. Lotso and Iris, meanwhile, were busy with contracts and paperwork for the homeless. More than 100 people participated in the construction, including him, the owner of the land. This motivated them, helping them work harder than usual. 1 month of the 2 summer holidays was devoted entirely to construction. Kururi hands Lotso a bag of money. He says it's only a small part of his gratitude. He asks him to accept it. The boy says it's a great honor. He thanks the hero. He thinks that as long as the young man rules these lands, they will prosper. He tells him to call him if he needs help. He was about to leave, but suddenly Iris called out to him. She asked if they would meet again. He replied that, of course, if Kururi invited him, he would definitely come. The girl was dissatisfied with this answer. She had something else in mind. She said goodbye to him. Kururi doesn't understand what just happened. He decided to present her with her award. She thanked him and blushed again, looking at the door. The next person to receive the award was Wayne. He said he didn't need it. But the hero insisted. He then asked his friend why Iris was acting this way. He replied that he didn't know. Kururi decided to ask the girl directly what was going on with her. The girl said she'd never felt this way before. The guys were shocked. The hero asks her to tell him. She says it's the first time in her life she's seen such a caring and reliable person. The guy realizes her diagnosis is that she's in love. He doesn't understand how this could even happen. They're talking about Lotso. He's like a secondary character. How can that be? Kururi asks Vane to somehow influence her. He replies that he doesn't even know how. The hero can't think of anything else. They're just 2 ordinary guys who don't know how to treat women. And then they have this girl who's head over heels in love with them. He suggested she go to the holiday villa. Lotso would be there. She said there was no need for her to go there. Even the impenetrable Wayne is worried about her. The hero is simply planning to see him again and decided to ask him if he'll go with him. That's what a holiday romance is like. If this continues, Iris might not even return from vacation with them. What should he do? Maybe he should get down on his knees and apologize to Prince Ark. They saw Lotso in the window. The girl asked if her hair was okay. The hero replied that it was, but she seemed a bit nervous. There was a ring at the door. For the first time, Kururi jumped at the sound of the bell. Had he fallen in love too? The boy greeted Lotso. The hero thinks he really does have a pleasant face and that good guy aura. Maybe he really should bring them together. They both seem like good people. The young man brought a report from the holiday villa. They were going to get things done quickly while he was still here. Kururi had said it would be very convenient, in every sense. He looked at Iris. She was in housewife mode. Although you could say she was just a girl, but it didn't matter. She would very much like to be closer. Lotso suggested that the hero pay special attention to this matter. Seeing Iris's tension, he decided to help her with this. He turned to Iris and told her that Lotso had something he wanted to report. It would be useful for her to know about it too. He invited her to come in and listen. The girl blushed. She sat down across from the guy and looked at the hero strangely. He couldn't understand why she was looking at him like that. Couldn't he just see Lotso next to him? The boy finished his report. Kururi thanked him for his work. It's good to have people like him, for whom everything runs smoothly. Iris agreed and said Lotso was amazing. He thanked her and decided to leave. The girl was upset. Kururi had no choice. He asked Lotso to stay there for a while. He wanted to refuse, but the young man sat him down on the sofa. The hero said he'd go get something to eat, and they could sit and talk for now. The young man thanked him for the offer. Kururi hopes for some kind of result. Vane assumed the hero had escaped. He replied that he thought his presence would be an embarrassment to Iris. Wayne said he was a good man. A hero wouldn't say that. After all, in a sense, he did run away. They wondered if everything would be okay. The guys exchanged glances and decided to go check it out. They seemed to be having fun. They didn't have to worry anymore. Kururi asked if it was okay that they were spying on them. Wayne thought it was a sign of bad manners. They decided to spar. Wayne commented on the hero's impressive swordsmanship. Kururi said the same about his technique. They crossed swords. Then they shook hands and thanked each other for a good fight. Iris and Lotso applauded them. Lotso decided to leave, as he had already had enough rest. When he left, Kururi asked what they had talked about. Iris mentioned that he'd only talked about the hero. The hero thought she didn't look displeased with the conversation. He mentioned being hungry after training and suggested they grab lunch. The next day, the young man went outside and remarked on the fine weather. The carriage was heading toward the mansion. Kururi almost forgot that Rasha was returning today. It was his brother. Raksa and Kururi greeted each other. He assumed Iris was his friend's lover, but that wasn't the case. He also mentioned that he'd planned to come here alone, but something had come up. The hero said he had a bad feeling. Raksa said he had arrived here accompanied by his brother and sister. Maria is currently in town with a friend, and her brother is still on the boat. Kururi and his father were surprised. The boy thinks the prince is here for Iris, and judging by what he sees, Rox is unaware of this. But it's not his fault. His brother only came here out of greed. The father told his son that he must leave immediately. He was counting on him. Ark got out of the carriage and remarked that the Helan lands looked amazing. He had come to visit this place as the first prince. Kururi thought that this guy was only thinking about Iris right now. He thanked him for the praise. The prince noticed the absence of the lord of these lands. The young man explained that he had to leave due to a sudden stomachache. He would take care of everything. Ark was counting on him. Raksa apologized for causing trouble. His brother might be difficult, but he asked her to take care of him. Kururi thought about how difficult it must be to have such a strange brother. Even if he knew the reason for his visit, he should formally ask. He asked the Rasa clan to wait in the house. Iris and Vane were there now. The first prince tensed. The young man realized his official visit was merely a pretext. He only needed to say he came for fun. Raksa thanked him and ran towards Iris, who was waving at him. Ark turned to the hero and handed him an envelope. He was asked to give this to him. Kururi thinks it's probably from Eliza. He doesn't understand why he feels happy to receive a letter from her. It's strange. The hero and Ark are riding in a carriage. The young man thinks that they have nothing to talk about. Even he needs a little rest. The prince was the first to break the silence and asked why Wayne and Iris had come here. He replied that they had come to see them and earn a little money. Since he hadn't seen Iris in quite some time, his thoughts were all about her. He really wants to see them together, but he's not confident enough. This makes him doubt whether it's worth helping him at all. Instead of talking to Iris, he simply glances at her. The prince must gather his courage. By the way, Iris is currently obsessed with another guy. How unfortunate. What would happen if the prince found out about this? Kururi invited the prince to try a delicious berry called watermelon at their home. The prince readily agreed. He wanted to see her soon. Rasa, Iris and Wayne are eating watermelon. The second prince rushed to greet his brother and friend. Kururi mentioned some changes to the original plans. He thought it would be nice for them all to eat together. Raksa invited them to the table. While eating the watermelon, the boy thought it was delicious. Iris said he could spit those things really far. Kururi wanted to say something along the lines of, "She's a girl and shouldn't do that," but she seemed to be having a lot of fun, so let it stay that way. He wondered about the prince's mood. He was depressed. This was his first experience of being sidelined, given his status as a prince. A normal girl would probably have given him some attention, but Iris wasn't one. She was too cold. He looks great and is rich enough, but he doesn't even have a chance to talk to her. Is it possible that they've already started hating me? When did that happen? Kururi said he'd heard that the prince and Iris had known each other for a long time. They were probably often seen together at school. Ark was certain that the hero also interacted with her quite a bit. Iris asks him not to delude himself. The only reason is that they're in the same class. The prince despaired. Raksa said that although they had met for the first time that day, he found her quite charming and offered to be friends. Iris saw no reason to refuse. Kururi thinks that it would be better for Ark to leave right now. Coming out of the bathhouse, he thought he must be more tired than usual today. After what had happened, the prince had been walking around like a zombie and everything had seemed rather troublesome. It was good that it was over. Then Roxa appeared. He thanked the hero for taking care of his brother. He shouldn't have brought him here. It seemed Ark was interested in Iris. The boy asks the younger man not to worry about his brother's feelings and to pursue his love with all his might. He is confident that he and Iris are well suited for each other. Kururi thinks there was a misunderstanding between them. He said the young man was mistaken. In fact, that's not true. Iris was certainly a kind girl, but he'd never thought of her romantically. The girl overheard their conversation. Now Roxa understands everything. He feels much better. He's tired and thinking of going back, so he invited the hero to come with him. He replied that he wanted to get some fresh air, so he'd come back later. Kururi is sitting on the grass. Someone approaches him. It was Iris. He invited her to enjoy such a pleasant evening together. They've known each other for several months now, and he no longer feels awkward in her presence. Considering this, it's safe to say they've become good friends. It's possible that much more could happen in the future. Iris admitted that she overheard a recent conversation between him and Raska. It turns out the hero doesn't see her as a woman. But sometimes, she thought it would be great to become his lover. The guy was surprised. But she said she was joking and decided to leave, wishing him good night. The hero doesn't understand what just happened. Was she teasing him? Most likely, that's it. She likes Lotso. He thought he could convince himself with these arguments, but he couldn't fall asleep. It seemed he was still too immature. Besides, he's very curious about the contents of this letter. It must be different from the last one. He hopes everything is all right. In her letter, Eliza asks how he spent his time in his hometown. How he's feeling, whether he's sick, whether he's eating well, and whether he brushes his teeth every day. She hopes he doesn't get into any dangerous adventures. Kururi thought it was more like a letter from his mother. After reading it, he was left with a rather strange feeling. The girl doesn't like the current weather in the capital. It's too hot. Even her father eats frozen fruits every day. Kururi feels as if her sister is telling her about the state of affairs in their family. There have been recent incidents where people have been found dead. It's possible this is due to the heat. It's quite scary. In total, about 7 people have died this way. Even though they had wives and children, they still managed to flirt with random women. They were scoundrels. It's only natural that they were punished. The suspect in all this is still at large, and there's a chance she's on his property right now. The hero thinks she's changing the subject too quickly. She genuinely has nothing to talk about. Maybe she's trying to hint at something. He's not a cheater. Besides, he doesn't even have a girlfriend. Eliza asked him how he spends his free time. It was too obvious that she was interested in what they were doing. Why write like that? It was too easy to read her thoughts. This letter was quite amusing to read. She still wanted to write to him about so much, but all this was as important as his health. The hero wrote her back. He told her that it was indeed fun and very hot here, but quite bearable compared to the capital. It was truly terrifying that every victim was a traitor. It was only natural that they got what they deserved. Having finished the letter, he thought that was all. Now he could get some sleep. The prince remained depressed. The hero couldn't leave him like that, so he brought him to the city. The prince is very handsome, intelligent, and has the right to do whatever he wants. These are the very traits that have always attracted the lady's attention. Kururi is confident that a little attention from the lovely girls will bring Ark to his senses. A girl approached them. Instead of addressing the prince, she addressed the protagonist. The boy was shocked. The girl had always admired him and would have liked to shake his hand. The other girls agreed with her. Kururi is flattered, of course, but that's not why he came here. He doesn't understand how he managed to attract all the attention. Ark is a handsome man, and when he's silent, he's absolutely beautiful. So, why did the hero get all the attention? Is this really what people call the difference between home and foreign soil? On the other hand, there's another reason for their attitude toward him. And this is the difference in their status in the eyes of others. The handsome future lord of the lands has the absolute support of the population, and Ark is a handsome man with an unclear origin. The prince can't bear to look at this anymore. Kururi apologized to the girls, but they needed to finish their handshakes for today. He still had a lot to show his comrade. Ark couldn't understand when he'd become his comrade. He was very jealous. He assumed the hero had something in common with Eliza, since she'd given him the letter. Kururi said he was mistaken. It was simply a formal exchange of greetings. The prince couldn't understand when he'd become so pathetic. Eliza had always followed him for a long time, but now it's all forgotten and left in the past. When he recalls those times, it seems as if she was his only ray of light in the darkness. Kururi said that everything was clear to him. Ark called the hero lucky. He gets along well with Iris and receives letters from Eliza. One could even say he's slowly taking over everyone important to him. The hero understands that the prince will never receive advice on love. Moreover, his first rejection came from his beloved. He thought about how girls love receiving gifts. If he had someone in mind, he should try. He replied that there was no one like that. Besides, his previous attempt at something similar had resulted in rejection and a deterioration in the relationship. Kururi asked him what he had given her. He replied that it was a diamond necklace. The hero suddenly fell silent, embarrassing the prince. He asked if all this was really so strange. Was it possible that his sense of beauty had become outdated? Had he lost his understanding of contemporary fashion? The guy asks him to be more simple. In reality, such an expensive gift would scare an ordinary girl he barely knows. Ark doesn't understand human emotions. How are they structured? Humanity frightens him. It seems the prince is now afraid of humans. The hero decides to give him a little advice. One day, he gave a strange girl a flower. This made her very happy. The prince replied that if that was the only reason, he should simply give her a whole garden. The boy explained that he only needed one flower. For the prince, this seems not enough. Kururi said that many rare flowers grow in their territory. If he could find a particularly beautiful one, any girl would be happy. Noticing the prince's happy face, the hero thought that he should stop making fun of him. They came to the forest. He led the prince to the largest garden on his property. A flower called hamayo grows there. It's renowned for the unique color of each petal. In the language of flowers, it's called the miracle of today. Ark already feels his strength returning. He hopes for success. He thanks Kururi. He'll find it himself. He'll find it himself. He asks to leave everything to him. 3 days later. The hero thinks about returning home. The prince never found the flower. It seemed spring would never come to the prince. Roxa said he hadn't seen his brother in such a state in a long time. It seemed the prince, having lost his confidence, had reached the brink. The hero asked Roxa for advice on what to do in this situation. He suggested inviting him to a hot spring and scattering some fruit there. This boosted his morale. Kururi thanked the boy for the offer and asked him to trust him. He turned to Ark and invited him to the hot springs. He refused. But the young man insisted. There were plenty of fruits there to eat and relax a bit. The hero took him to the best local hot springs. The plan seemed to be working. Ark apologized for today. His face still looked downcast. They couldn't stop there. He'd feel better once they reached the hot springs. He'd asked for some fruit to be scattered there beforehand, so he could eat to his heart's content. They rubbed each other's backs and began to sit in the water. The girls behind the wall were discussing their body parts. Kururi felt like he'd rented the entire place, but it looked like the female part was still working. The prince asked if he hadn't reserved the entire place. He replied that they had left the ladies' section exposed. This made Ark feel uneasy. The girl compared her breasts to a watermelon. The boys were surprised and blushed. The prince asked to hold the watermelon. His face was red. The berry was very large. The girls then started comparing their body parts to oranges. They were a bit heavy, but not too heavy. Besides, many men liked that size. Ark said the girls were right. It was quite comfortable. Is it really true that men think about the same things? The prince said it was nice here. He was very pleased. He thanked the hero for bringing him here. He was thinking about leaving. Kururi asked if the prince would be satisfied with just their voices. He replied that without the opportunity to see them, they could only enjoy the content of their dialogue. The boy said his comrade was wrong. He had done this before. Kururi asks not to misunderstand him. That attempt failed miserably. Ark asked if it wouldn't be the same this time. The hero replied that this was different. There were 2 of them. They could do it. They were using the shoulder rider tactic. Ark says he can't see anything. The fog blocks his entire view. If he were just a little higher, just a little bit more, and he could have reached the forbidden garden. He mentioned there was a bucket nearby. They could use it. Kururi worried about her efforts for the prince. He says that if they do that, they're likely to slip and fall. Arc says that even if that happens, they've come too far to back out now. They decide to do it. The prince sees everything. Now nothing will obstruct his vision. The hero asks him to calm down. He's having trouble maintaining his balance. But there was no one on the other side. He should have known better. They would surely have been discovered, given how loudly they were screaming. This is bad luck. It looks like they'll have to leave empty-handed. However, the prince was amused, even if they didn't see the forbidden garden. Kururi is worried about something else. They'll hold this position for a couple of minutes, and then they'll just fall to the ground. The prince needn't worry. The hero can guarantee he won't get hurt. As he falls, he'll send him flying toward the water. He must do so. He no longer has the strength to remain in this state. They fell. That day they decided not to try to peek anymore. Roxa apologizes to Kururi for the inconvenience. He asks him not to worry. In any case, he wasn't the one who created them. The boy promised to come alone next time. He counts on his care. It's time for him and Arc to move on. Roxa thanked him for everything, and they left. Iris noticed that they were already gone. It would be a little lonely here without them. The girl was sad that Roxa was no longer here. It seemed as if the prince no longer existed in her eyes. She wondered when they'd be visiting again. Mr. Roxa was quite a busy man, so he was probably on winter break. Arc was no longer in this world for her. They entered the house. From now on, he'll finally be able to relax and enjoy his summer vacation. And by the way, Iris and Wayne have arrived for work, so it's worth giving them some. It should be something fun and simple. He's thinking about starting a business selling face masks, like he did with Toto. They'll start selling near the villa. He asked a friend to take all the masks to Lotson's, and Iris will go with him to sell them. The area next to the villa. Kururi calls people over and explains about the masks. The woman asked them what it was. Kururi explained that she was now wearing a face mask. If she applied it once a day, her skin would turn purple like pudding in a jar. She decides to take one. The hero explains that since she's their first customer today, the mask will only cost 5 silver coins. That's a pretty steep price. The woman agrees. She didn't even bat an eyelid. What amazing power the wallet has, she asked how to use it. Kururi explained that she should remove the leaf from the container and apply it to her face. The effect would last for a full 8 hours. He advised pulling out the leaf and not delaying. The woman said she'd try it. If the effect was exactly as described, she'd definitely come back. Kururi thanked her for her purchase. It was a very quick sale. Iris asked how much food could be bought for 5 silver coins. The hero replied that it was quite a high price. It's good they were able to sell one. The guy said that sales depend on what the people who buy the product think of it. They only sold 1 mask. It will be a while before more people come. The whole point of masks is that the buyer is obligated to come back and buy more. They needed to make sure everything went smoothly. They had to do everything they could to sell as quickly as possible. They didn't yet know how things would go. Iris smiled and said they'd try their best. Another woman approached and asked about what they were selling. Kururi presented his wares. Another woman expressed interest. The young man explained that it was a face mask. The girls began to approach the counter. Iris said that they really sold a lot today. The guy was surprised too. All they had left was some facial oil, and even that had dried up. They just had to wait for people's reactions tomorrow. He wasn't worried about it being a complete failure. Maybe he'd sell the pot tomorrow. Moreover, depending on people's feedback, he would need to make plans for the future. The hero suggested using it in conjunction with Mr. Lotson. The girl agreed. Her face flushed at the mere mention of his name. Iris was truly in love. The heroes met. Vane said he truly felt better after all his work. They had a few unused masks left. He offered to give Lotso one. He agreed and decided to take only one. He's thinking of giving it to his wife. It would be a fitting compensation for his recent busy schedule. Kururi, Vane, and Iris are shocked. The hero opened his mouth in surprise. He has a wife. What kind of turn is this? Who would have thought? Iris lost consciousness. Lotso was disconcerted. He asked what had happened. Kururi said his employee was amazing. Kururi's father is glad that the guests have left. 3 days have passed since Iris plunged into the depths of despair. Fortunately, she's feeling better now, and Wayne even managed to drag her out hunting. Meanwhile, her father is enjoying the peace and tranquility that has arrived. The butler approached the hero and said he had something to report. Information had been received that the lord of the neighboring lands, Mark Carrick, had arrived in their territory for a visit. He would be here soon. The father's leg cramped. He apologized to his son. He wanted to say something about Carrick Marl. The boy recalled that Iris came from his territory. According to the stories, Marl treats its subjects poorly. Kururi asked if they knew each other. He replied that they were classmates. Marl was better than him in everything. Their only battle ended in his defeat, and every time they meet, he feels an overwhelming fear, remembering those times. He's just awful, and always one step ahead. Kururi said he'd meet with him and sort everything out. Dad can't leave everything to him. Carrick Marl, judging by everything, is an extremely dangerous man. Then he'll be with him during their conversation. The father is glad that he has such a son. They must try to give their best. Marl Carrick arrived. He put his feet up on the table and greeted the Helan family. His father greeted him back. Kururi was shocked. He doesn't understand this guy's manners. Marl apologized for arriving unannounced, but there was one question that couldn't wait. Rumors circulate that its residents are moving into its territory. Because of this, tax revenues have decreased. He came here to receive compensation for the losses he caused. He is obliged to compensate for what he has lost, be it labor or money. My father asked what he meant by the damage he caused. The residents had come to his territory of their own free will. Moreover, forced displacement of populations is prohibited by the laws of the kingdom. He said it was a major problem. The military strength of his lands had diminished, and his profits had fallen. In any case, all he needs to do is pay compensation. He'll figure it out himself from there. The hero thinks it's only natural that residents have started moving here. They have lower taxes and more jobs. His first priority is to meet the needs of the residents. Why isn't he trying to solve this problem, instead playing the victim? He's confident Marl understands the situation. He clearly wants to absolve her of responsibility. Kururi called him names, and asked how he dared to say such things to them. He understood that he could no longer remain silent. Marl asked who had given the outsider the right to express his opinion. The hero introduced himself. He is the future lord of the Helan lands. No one can call him an outsider here. Marl demanded he be kicked out, but the boy asked his father to keep quiet. He said he wouldn't get any compensation from them. He was asking them to leave their land. The man said that even if he said so, the fact that his land had suffered losses due to their fault could not be hidden. He would not leave empty-handed. Kururi told him to take 10 watermelons. He wouldn't get any money. Marl realized the situation had reached a dead end. He suggested a different approach. He decided to leave the matter to the elder Duville. He'll teach him some social rules. The elder Duville and he were classmates. Their friendship didn't deteriorate even after graduation. He'd only wanted to ask them for some money, but now his mind had changed. He thinks the best option would be to ask the elder Duville to take these lands from them for his benefit. The boy thinks things are bad. Who would have thought he had connections to the emperor? Anyone like him wields influence second only to the royal family. The minister could easily seize their lands too. The young man asks that the higher-ups not be involved in this matter. Marl doesn't understand his intentions. They don't plan to give him money. The guy said that although their lands are thriving, they don't have any spare cash. He says whatever he wants. With the minister on his side, he has no choice. He could have won this verbal duel. The boy feels sorry for him, but Marl isn't interested. He'll call the elder Duval. That can't be changed. The boy's father couldn't stand it and called the man names. And the next moment, he struck him in the face. He says he can insult him, but he's forbidden from speaking to his son like that. If he tries again, he'll declare war on him. Marl is shocked. He tells him to know his place. But his father doesn't care. He orders him to leave. Kururi said that his father was cool. And just when it seemed the situation had normalized, the day came when the minister visited them. Ian Duville said he and Toril hadn't seen each other since their school days. His reforms and progress were impressive. The father said all these ideas were his son's idea. The man said his son was Eliza's classmate and he'd heard a lot about him. Kururi thought he'd lost. They were finished. Marl suggested moving on to the main issue. Ian said he didn't have much time. He thought starting a war would be a bad decision, and given their ages, it would be better to resolve things peacefully. They should apologize to him and pay for his treatment for the previous fight. Father and son apologized and promised to cover their medical expenses. Marl said he wasn't too hurt by the blow. Ian said that was it. They could leave. Everyone was shocked. Marl asked if they were really leaving, since the matter hadn't been resolved yet. The man replied that they had already apologized to him. The Lord wanted to say something, but Ian looked at him and asked him to consider his position. He couldn't understand who would say a word to him about this. Could it be the king? The Prime Minister denied it and said that the man would be higher up. The father asked if their lands were safe now. Kururi agreed and decided to accompany them. He went outside and saw Eliza. She greeted him. The young man was surprised. The guy thanked her. Eliza said she just came to visit a friend during the summer holidays. The hero said to let him accompany her to the territory. Eliza thanked him. It was better to pretend that everything was okay. He offered her a watermelon, saying it was a sweet and refreshing berry. The girl said their lands were full of mysteries. The girl enjoyed it. The guy said that the seeds can be gotten rid of. She said she was only visiting for one day. Kururi said he would show her the most wonderful places in the area. The hero decided to start from there. The man said that a nice lady decided to visit the estate, and he saw the moment of her arrival. The hero introduced the girl. He also introduced the man. He said he'd taken care of him a lot when he was little and taught him a lot. Moran said it wasn't difficult. The guy said that Volume 4 of the Book of Magic was quite complex, and he didn't think he could understand it on his own. The man said he just needed to try. Kururi replied that this was true, but it would be great if he helped him. The girl told him not to speak to him so rudely, and, besides, he should not always rely on other people's help. The man said that Eliza was right, and she had a sensitive look. Moran said it would be nice to have such a brilliant girl as part of the family. Such good communication skills were impressive. The hero said he had returned and was told to leave, but he refused. The boy said that this was his teacher who taught him blacksmithing, and he was quite obstinate. Eliza said she saw no reason for the hero to learn blacksmithing. Kururi thought about how she couldn't tell her this job would secure their future together. It felt like an offer, and explaining it would be a challenge. The man told me not to stand in the hallway and to come in. It's called tsundere. The guy said he was always like that, first a scolding, then care. The blacksmith said the boy knew how to run a business, and now it was time to start a family. The girl who came with him was very sweet, and he believed she would make a wonderful wife. The hero said he'd think about it. The man said that he had a new student. If he had time, he could take a look. The blacksmith told me to drop what I was doing and go. He introduced the hero and said he rarely came there. Kuznets said the guy hadn't even warned him he was coming. The new student's name was Melissa. The boy said his blacksmithing skills weren't as good as they seemed, and that was okay. She told him not to be modest, since the master talks about him all the time, and besides, at least he doesn't make us laugh at his swords. The blacksmith said that although the hero didn't look like a blacksmith, his skills were quite good. Melissa said he couldn't handle it. It would take a couple more years of training before her skills reached the next level. The girl asked to point out her mistakes. The hero agreed. Lisa said she was interested in watching the blacksmith at work, and so she would watch too. The guy said the girl wasn't hitting the material well, and the master told her the same thing. She'd forgotten about it while forging. He had a similar problem, and it was easily solved with one trick. Kururi said he would show. He showed her the stance and said it would be much better to surprise her, that such a small detail would have a big impact on the force of the blow. It wouldn't be difficult for him to teach her something like that. And Lisa said that he gets his first warning. The guy thought she was in a bad mood. He wouldn't have time to teach Melissa for a while, and he needed to make the most of this opportunity. He asked the girl if she would mind if he taught the student a few more things. Eliza agreed. Melissa said that by following his advice, she already felt her skills had grown, and thanked him. Since he was a year older than her and the master's senior apprentice, she called him a brother. This form of address made him feel a little prouder than when Rasha did it. Being called that by a girl who wanted to be like him was a great joy. Eliza gave him a second warning. He was asking himself a lot of questions. At that point, Melissa finished. The hero said the sword's balance and appearance were good, but even such work had flaws. She paid little attention to one place. Eliza said it was time to get what she deserved. The boy couldn't understand whether a man with such a kind face could hit him. He thought he was imagining it. Most likely, he imagined it, and she could not hit him and thought that he should rest. The hero said it was time for him to leave with the girl. Melissa said he could come anytime, and she would be waiting for him. He said that frequent screaming shortens life expectancy. The man said he should shut up and go home, and they were waiting for him any time. Afterwards, the hero took her to the hot springs. Eliza said it was fun. The girl said that the hot springs were wonderful, and it felt like she could still smell the flowers scattered there. Those flowers were beautiful. The hero asked her about the land. She said it was wonderful there and, what's more, she'd been lucky enough to meet the local lord. The girl was liked by everyone she met, and even his father didn't get a stomachache when he met her. He told her to come anytime, and they would be glad to see her. And Lisa said she would be glad to come again. The guy said there were a lot of things there she hadn't seen. She said she'd come and he shouldn't worry. They made a promise to each other. One could say that this is a confirmation of the oath. Eliza said she felt a little dizzy after the hot springs. The hero thought it was cute. Having finished the conversation, the girl went back to the capital. A little sad, he saw the carriage off with a glance and went home. Today had been a fun day, though one question remained. He didn't understand why he'd introduced Eliza to his family. It was odd, but he enjoyed it. Besides, Eliza had a good time too. In general, this was the original goal, and pleasant memories won't hurt. Several days passed after Eliza's departure. Since there were 3 of them, the guy suggested changing formations. Wayne wanted to be in front. Iris also wanted to be in the front. The hero said he'd cover them. They're in the forest on the property now, and that happened because something happened a couple of hours ago. Monsters were seen on their property. Things started getting out of control. Normally, the hero would simply issue a kill request, but given that there are 2 strong people nearby, you can try to deal with him. The guy said he would find a solution. Somehow, that's how they ended up there. Wayne was in a good mood, and Iris wanted to be in the front too. Since it was quiet and calm there, it was the perfect time for monsters to appear. Knowing Vena, this is definitely not fiction. He will keep his eyes open. The guy said he'd attack them head-on, and Iris would deal with the ones he missed. The protagonist should be prepared to use his skills in case of danger. The girl enjoyed letting off steam. Kururi realized that she was the kind of woman who got rid of all the pent-up tension by swinging a bat. It's so good that they can handle 3 goblins. If you were to order a hunt for them yourself, you would have to pay 1 gold for each. They saved money. As a future lord, he was glad. There was a ghoul nearby. Wayne asked if they should try. He was right to ask such a question. Ordinary ghouls are extremely powerful. He's not someone you can easily go up against. He had an antidote, but it won't protect you 100%. The girl said that you just need to try. It seemed she really wanted this. Even though he had the antidote, she still had to be careful. He said that he would distract from Gaul and the girl would strike. Vine asked to cover for them if anything went wrong. They moved on. It looks like Iris isn't feeling any better yet. They need to be quieter. It was an orc. An orc is extremely dangerous. His strength and defense far exceed those of a normal human, and he's also fast, making escaping difficult. If it were the worst-case scenario, they wouldn't even have a chance to avoid it. Wayne said he was dangerous, and it was better to avoid the fight. If he made a request, the cost would be considerable, so he wanted to figure it out himself. Iris suggested giving it a try. The plan was the same. It's huge. It's at least 3 meters high. It will be difficult to survive after his attack. Although Iris acted too self-confidently, her actions bought a little time. There is no turning back now. She said goodbye to her crush. The girl said she felt completely better now, and the monster's face was simply terrifying. It seemed the whole time she'd been haunted by the subject of falling in love. Although she felt better, there was no point in dumping everything on the monster. Rejected women share their emotions with each other and then feel better. The hero said that since they had finished, he suggested going to the hot springs. The girl agreed. She smiled, and it seemed like nothing was bothering her anymore. The smile suited her very well. Now that they were relaxed, the guy suggested playing ping pong. Iris said she'd never played it before. The prize will be a beautiful cake. She said she was playing. Wayne didn't want to play. The hero said that in that case he would lose. But the guy is out of the game. Kururi replied that it didn't change anything, and he was considered the loser. Wayne said he would play in that case. The guy said that the ball couldn't hit the net or fall off the table. They would play to 10 points. He and Wayne will play first, and the winner will play against Iris. The winner will take the cake. Wayne suggested changing clothes, since it was hard to move. Their current clothing was not suitable for table tennis. The guy replied that it was a tradition. The hero said that he was naive. It was well played, and now that he has understood the basics, such a mistake will not be repeated. He quickly got used to it. Wayne won by 6 points. He said he just got the hang of it. It looks like it will be hard for the girl to win. In any case, the most interesting part is about to begin. This is what table tennis was all about. The guy said he was too nervous right now to give in. Iris said they'd see who was better. He didn't hold back. Instead of having fun, he played seriously. The girl told him not to mess with her. He hit her in the same place several times in a row. The hero apologized for disappointing her. The score was tied. Whoever got the last point would win and take the cake. Wayne said that although her skills are better, he has the serve now, and he is confident that the victory is already in his pocket. The girl said that although he was partly right, she would be able to reflect his strongest serve. Vine said she could try, but she wouldn't succeed. Iris won. The girl was happy. They played on equal terms, but it was quite appropriate that the girl would take the cake. The hero was sorry that what he was waiting for did not happen. In the end, Iris returned to form, but he still didn't see what he wanted. Sometimes you worry for no reason. Usually because you're worried, but there's nothing going on here to worry about. He was excited, especially on the night before the end of the summer holidays. It was still midnight, but there were some sounds. A man wanted to talk to the hero. He asked to be let in. He needed to meet him. He heard the news and decided it would be better if he informed him about it. There was a big fire. This place is where they decided to build houses for the incoming emigrants. It's also a place where a lot of people work. He asked about the scale of the fire. Lotso said he couldn't measure the exact extent of the fire, but he was told it started in different places at the same time. The alarm went off shortly afterward. And, as it happens at night, panic was inevitable, and things are getting worse as they speak. The hero thanked him for telling about it. The man wanted him to give the order as soon as possible. The guy said that first he would change his clothes and get ready. He needed a little time. Someone, as calm as the man, was very serious. The situation may be more serious than he expected. He was not sure whether he would be able to cope with the situation and control it, and the fact that the fire started from several places could not be an accident, but it is also possible that the report was not accurate. It is difficult for him to take any big actions now. There is a chance that it is a coincidence, but he cannot confirm it. The main task is to look after the fire. The hero apologized for keeping them waiting. By this time the horses were ready. He tried to stop his comrades, but they did not give up. It was still midnight, but they woke up. Wayne said that if he made such a scene, anyone would wake up. The girl said they wanted to help him. The guy said he was still not sure. There was a chance they could be in a dangerous situation. If possible, he would prefer for the two of them to stay there. Iris said she couldn't be persuaded. She was going anyway. Vo said he couldn't stop them. The man regretted not being able to be quieter. The hero said that it was not his fault. He didn't know if they would return safe. They agreed anyway. The guy said that then he would be under their care. In any case, Vine was bored anyway. He has reliable friends. There was a chance that something Lotso said was true, and there is a high chance that it was a planned accident. If so, it will be a pretty dangerous place. If they are exposed to a fall while putting out the fire, it will be a big problem for them. If they have the ability to stop the panic, if the criminals behind it interfere with them while they are setting that fire, then it will be a huge problem. If they don't hurry, things will be bad. The man said he was sorry because he thought he had called them to such a dangerous place at such a time, but he couldn't think that anyone but them could take care of the situation. The guy replied that he didn't need to apologize. The hero said that he was glad that he had told him about it. He would have been very sorry if he had not taken any action. Lotso said he appreciated it. Vine said he would take care of the enemy, and it was necessary to do everything together. The man said that he would do it because it was dangerous. They were the shield of the country. Risking their lives was their job. Their family was created to protect the royal blood. They can't just leave their life in the cottage. It's not right. If he had remained in safety all the time, he would not have been able to meet his ancestors. He had his own problems. The same goes for him. To make the process easier, he needs to fulfill his duty, no matter what. The guy didn't think that Wayne would be so persistent and that he wouldn't be able to stop him. The hero said that he was instructing him to deal with potential enemies. But if it was too dangerous, then he had to join in and had to promise him this. The townspeople were in a panic, and he tried to calm them down. He couldn't contact them. Iris told me not to rush myself. She had an idea. She asked to leave it to her. She asked to show her the way. He had never seen such magic. Iris asked him to wait, as she would be back soon. The hero had a feeling of déjà vu. Long ago, he summoned spirits in the form of a radish. She wanted to do it too, but she just couldn't. Then she met a generous man at school who helped her. It was a mandrake. It's only been 2 years since she was born, so she's still a child. The boy asked why she'd summoned her. He said he didn't see the point in using her in this situation. Iris said she was still a child, so there was no problem. The hero said that when you pull them out, they should cry. The girl replied that she asked her not to cry. The guy thought he didn't understand anything. She asked him to cover his ears, as if asking a mandrake to scream. The boy didn't understand how she was supposed to ask it. Iris asked the mandrake to scream. She apologized for waking her at such a time, but it was an emergency. She asked her normally. The girl said not to say that, but if she fulfilled her request, she would give her as much hummus as she wanted. The girl thanked her. Now she will return her back to the forest. They thanked the mandrake. The hero said that from now on he would be responsible for everything, and there should be no objections from those who had previously left the place immediately, as far away as possible. He asked them not to try to put out the fire themselves. Even if their house is on fire, he will try to compensate for all the losses when the problems are solved. If they cannot move, then they should rely on other people. Safety is the most important thing now. The rest will keep an eye on the fire. The river should be nearby. The hero asked to take everyone there. They will use all the buckets they can find and put out the fire. It looked like they were being followed. The man saw some movements that were heading towards the forest. Perhaps they are criminals, and he will go after them. The guy said it could be a trap. Wayne said he knew it, and even if it was, he'd distract them for a while and asked him to keep an eye on the fire. The hero asked not to forget about safety. Wayne replied that he already knew about it. Iris and Kururi will help citizens. The hero asked them not to stop and to continue. The fire wasn't getting any worse, and if they kept going, they would. One person looked at them for quite a long time. The hero asked Iris to protect the others, and he would stay there. He ran away as soon as their eyes met. Without a doubt, it was him. The guy didn't know why he was there, but he was definitely involved in the incident. The hero said it was too late to run. Vine followed the criminal. The hero caught the man. He asked to spare him. The guy said he wouldn't kill him. He'd take him to his lord, using brute force. Now Vine was unarmed. The man said that instead of being cornered, he cornered him. The guy realized that it was a trap. The stranger said it was for him. The bandits mistook him for the main character. They said they lured him there to catch him. The guy realized that the original goal was a hero. According to him, he was not Kururi. They decided to just catch him later. But now the man couldn't let him go. Now that he knew their target was Kururi, he couldn't let them do anything else. The man said that he might be strong, but he had no sword, and there were 6 of them, and he was the only one who should be afraid. He said the guy was in a terrible situation. Vine replied that he was a little crazy and not particularly emotional. Because of this, he doesn't have many friends, which is another reason to protect and cherish the friend he does have. That's why they will lose. The man said that he didn't really understand him, but if he wanted to fight, he could do so. He said that they were mercenaries, and people like him were nothing compared to them. The guy said that they can still do something, but you don't even need a sword to defeat them. There are 5 left, and he said to come up to them all at once. One of the bandits asked why he was saying this to his enemies. Vane replied that it was obvious since he would be able to defeat all the minds, and told them to come closer. He said that since they don't want to, he will come himself. The guy assumed that someone had hired them and told them to spell his name correctly. The man said that he would not name him even if he defeated him. Vine said he'd hunted all sorts of animals, but he'd never done it with people. He told them to see if they would still be as steadfast after he'd dispatched them all. The man said that he would tell him everything and asked to spare him. It was Marl. It was Marl. He was behind it all. The hero said it was an interesting coincidence and a little strange that he'd ended up in such a place. The man said he didn't understand what he was talking about. He smiled on purpose and pretended that he didn't understand anything and hadn't done anything. The guy said that he didn't have any more time. First he will tie him up, and then he will listen to what he has to say. Marl said he had no grounds for it, and he would regret it in court, and the only person they could tie up would be him. The main character said that his story made him sleepy and asked to forget everything he said. He would simply attack him. But before that, he'll tell him the truth. The man said the people there had long ago established business on his territory. He could not come to terms with such a simple change of things. He could not forgive it. The guy said that these people were the ones who were going to start life from scratch. These were people full of hope for a better time. The hero saw no reason to respect him. Marl replied that he was great. They had to bow to him, and so he burned the place. To see them run away desperately. The guy said it was a stupid reason, all because of his low self-esteem. The man said to behave properly if he is so noble. The hero said that this is not something that the nobility should do. He said he had had enough of the chatter and was drawing his sword. The guy said to go out with him to a duel. If he loses, he will answer for all his sins before the people and will receive what he deserves from the kingdom. The man said that he accepted his challenge. If he loses, he will do as he wishes. However, if he wins, the guy will die anyway. It will be his problem after he loses. His blade will pierce him. The guy said he swears. He didn't remember the Lord having such a sword. Marl told him not to hesitate in the fight. The man said he was too soft and had no sympathy for his opponent. That's why he will win. The guy said that his sword was useless, distracted. He was already ready to lose the rhythm. The hero said that he had won, and the man would answer for his sins and take responsibility for them. The battle is over. A little later, the gendarmes arrived and tied up the man, taking him with them after the battle on the remains of the burnt houses. The girl said that everything ended well for them. The hero replied that everything was fine with him too, and he had found that leader. The guy said that it was in vain that he tried to beat confessions out of the guys. Wayne said there was no need to worry about him, but whatever the case, he was glad the boy was unharmed. Their team did a good job. In fact, Vine would never have mentioned something like that. But now he still said it. People change anyway. The girl asked who was behind all this. This was that very leader. They will send him to the capital, where the king will take care of his punishment. Based on the information they said, the whole gang was there. The case was closed. The man said that, as expected, the hero couldn't find anyone better. The guy thanked everyone. It was a long night. The man was captured and brought to justice. Peace returned to the valley, and as a nobleman and temporary lord, he could continue to play his role without interference. The hero asked if there was anything else he was unhappy with. Marl replied that this was not the end. The boy said that his friends were gone. The man said that they were all with him. Kururi said they were holding them there and keeping them under surveillance, and they wouldn't be able to do anything about their situation. The man agreed. Now his hands are tied. He said that he was at least still capable of setting fire to the Lord's estate. The hero said that it was impossible. Marl said he wouldn't let him relax alone. Their target was their father. He told them to turn the horses around. The man said that it should be burning brightly by now. At midnight, the fire will completely engulf it. If the hero thinks he is lying, then he must go to the estate, and all that awaits him there is the ashes of the ruins. His father may have been a coward, but he was not a bad man at all. Whatever the case, he won't let them die in what's already a terrible time. All his loved ones are still at the estate. This is the house he grew up in, and he won't let anyone harm him. The hero said that nothing was over yet, and he still had hope. Marl replied that it was a hopeless situation. There was something else he could do. He must activate the magic book he borrowed from Moran. He is not sure how many times his spirit has been broken. He may not have been able to do anything before, but now he just has to do it. The guy has to do it. He couldn't do it in that situation. The girl told him to listen. He did it. This long night is finally over. The aftermath of the incident was truly difficult to understand. Repairing the houses damaged by the fire required a large labor force and money, And even if that were the case, the victims continued to live happily ever after. That's the most important thing. He received a letter from the king himself, which said that they could try the criminal according to their autonomous law, but he refused this. The hero is confident the king will find a suitable punishment for them. Vane replied that he is a good ruler and was right to trust him. The guy said he believed him, but he didn't even know what their king looked like. He wondered what kind of person Rashi and Ark's father was. It's safe to say that the summer was somewhat difficult, but it still feels like his school days in the past were a mere trifle. Vine said he had the opportunity to hunt monsters at one time and it was fun. The hero wouldn't want to go through that again. The girl said that she liked the watermelons. The guy said the watermelons were delicious. Iris said the hot springs were a lot of fun and she'd go back. The hero told her to come over any time. He was glad to hear that they both liked their territory. The father saw that they were already leaving and asked them to stay a little longer. He slept soundly that night, but he's fine as always. The hero said they were already leaving. The main character said that it was very nice to spend the summer. He will leave home again for some time, but if he has a problem, he should talk to Lotso. The girl thanked him for taking them in. Vine thanked him for his concern. Father shook only Iris's hand. He said to come back anytime. And so their summer came to an end. The hero said they were leaving. The carriage headed to the academy. Summer holidays ended in the blink of an eye and they returned to school. The boy still hasn't gotten used to traveling by carriage. The holidays are over and school is starting. He returned to the dorm after a long time. He felt nostalgic, but at the same time new. The hero said that they had not reached the stage of their relationship. The guy said it was a relationship in which they did different things. Kururi asked not to make such a face. The guy said he came there to see him after the summer holidays and was not invited to the territory. The hero said that if he wanted to come, he should have just done it. Ark and the queen were also on the territory. Eliza was there too. The guy asked why he didn't invite him, despite the relationship. The hero asked him to tell why he came there. The guy said he didn't need anything. The hero realized he'd entered his room, but he didn't even need anything. The guy confirmed it. Kururi thought he was creepy. The hero told him to leave if nothing was needed. He asked to tell him the reason. The guy said it wasn't cute. He didn't even knock. The hero didn't understand why he simply walked in, as if it were perfectly normal. After all, he came there to train and we can leave that for later. The guy said he'd arrived just in time and asked for help. Kururi tried to coerce him into helping him. The hero said that he was the one trying, and asked to take his hands off. Vi told him not to overdo it. However, the hero did nothing. He said that it was worth meeting Kurosi after a long time. He was supposed to come. Despite his casual answer, his legs were shaking. Vine adored him very much. Rain asked him if he had been visiting. The guy said he wasn't invited. He knows it's hard to ask out someone you like. The hero didn't like him. They enjoyed tea while they waited. Wayne was shaking. For some reason, Rael became close to him. He thought the day would come when his room would become private. It didn't matter, and he wondered if Karasi would even come. He thought he'd arrive first to practice with the Vane. He didn't. He said he had something to take care of, so he didn't go to the territory. He said something like that, and they were interested in how he spent his holidays. Rael said that Karasi won't come. Still, she is now in a rather delicate situation. Wayne said that even though he is handsome, he is still a boy. Rael said he was wrong, and she was a girl. Besides, she's a princess. A beautiful princess from a kingdom. She was exiled because the country became unstable due to civil war. Now everything is calm in the kingdom, so she returned. She's the only direct descendant of the royal family. Vane comes from a noble family, so he should be well aware of that. The hero asked himself many questions. Just knowing the situation in the knight's family, he wondered how shocking it would be to throw a party for a girl. Well, she was a princess after all, and she was indeed elegant, and her gestures were graceful. The guy was very surprised. Rael said that she returned home, so she will not return to the academy anymore. If things remain like this, then they may never meet again. She is in quite a difficult situation, so she cannot leave her kingdom. The hero thought about visiting her. Rael suggested running away. The guy said he was right. He wondered when he'd become so good. Rael had a surprisingly carefree mindset. Only now does he regret that simple farewell to his girlfriend before summer break. They had a wonderful time together. He won't let it end so easily. Just one letter would have been enough. At least she could have told them something. He's her teacher and her friend. She came home without saying a word, and he'll have to scold her. As soon as they returned to school, they had to leave as quickly as possible. The three of them set off for the kingdom. 2 weeks flew by in the blink of an eye. Finally, they arrived at the girl's homeland. The hero heard that the kingdom was famous for its fishing industry. The guy said that this meant he would be able to fish in his free time. But first, I had to meet the princess. Rail asked what he would say to her. The hero didn't know yet. Previously, he had spoken to her normally, but as soon as he learned she was a princess, he felt a difference. Rain told them to wait as they were approaching. They were asked to wait. They were easily missed because the guy had sent the letter in advance. The hero thought that this was expected. It was not for nothing that he had served as the prince's assistant for many years, and that he should stay there for a few days. Rain greeted and introduced himself to the princess, and apologized for the sudden visit. The girl asked him not to worry. She said she thanked him. The guy looked like an ideal nobleman. The hero said they hadn't seen each other for a long time. The princess said she hadn't had the chance to say goodbye and apologized. Kururi replied that everything was fine, and he heard that everything was back to normal now, and if she was safe, then everything was fine. Still, she regretted not being able to say a proper goodbye in the rush to leave the academy. She thanked them for coming. The guy wanted to talk to Vine. The hero asked if he was okay with the situation. Wayne was looking forward to the meeting more than anyone else. The girl asked to tell the teacher that she had to leave. She had a lot of political matters to attend to. She invited him to take a walk around the city while she was busy. The girl said that she would come when she had free time. The hero wanted to talk to her longer. He talked to Rain and decided to explore the city tomorrow and leave the day after. The hero felt deeply depressed by the thought that he might no longer be able to communicate with her. He didn't understand why the boy was silent. Kururi couldn't sleep. The girl said she heard they were going to see the sights of the kingdom today, and the princess asked her to be their guide. Her name is Miana. Since the kingdom was famous for its fishing industry, he proposed a fish market. The hero said that he hadn't eaten fresh fish for a long time and would like to try it. The girl said she knew the perfect place. This place is close to the royal castle, so it's safe. The country isn't very rich, but the people are well off thanks to the fish. This is what made the kingdom so unique. Further on was the pier, and next to it was a market. If they saw their favorite fish, they had to buy it before heading home. The hero asked if this fish could be eaten. The girl replied that many people ate it that way. The guy said he liked raw kururi. There was a restaurant nearby that had the best fish in town. The guy said they'd go there then, since she'd suggested it. The sashimi was made from tuna. The guy said he liked it. It's the princess's favorite dish. The hero said that if he didn't like it, he didn't have to eat it, and it was clear from his face. The guy asked why the Neko-sensei was there. He replied that it was his question. The hero said he had come to see the princess. She apologized and said she didn't know her. Kururi asked about her. This was her hometown, Huashmai. She was on vacation. The hero hoped that she wouldn't ask the same question. She was walking with a friend the other day. The girl replied that she was their old friend. And she was a great wizard, who had helped them since the founding of the kingdom. Those children were her students. The protagonist was a fully realized student. The student she mentioned is the hero, and the other is the prince. Everyone finished eating, and the cat suggested going fishing. She caught a fish. The hero thought she caught a lot. Wayne said he couldn't let their friendship end like that. He asked to be allowed to do what he wanted. She lived her entire life as the first princess of a kingdom that was originally a land of rice fields and fishing. They were only able to defend their country with the help of a neighboring state. The current king is a man of honor. He is adored by his people. He has a gentle character. He does not like conflicts. But 10 years ago, the peaceful country began to change. The great merchant Adrian Brezhnev arrived, and the winds of change followed him. He gathered workers and formed a union for them, using his own. This charity lasted for years. Hadrian saved many people and made their lives easier. The princess's father made him a feudal lord with great hopes for the future. He gave him a holding in the south of the country. It was a developed rural area, but despite this, he continued his work for the union. Hadrian invested his fortune in fishing and established a fishing industry in the south. With this economic boom, the kingdom became even more prosperous. The population grew, and people hailed him as the god of fortune. But suddenly, the situation changed dramatically. Hadrian began increasing the number of guards throughout his territory, and increasing taxes monthly. Anyone who fell ill or attempted to leave the south was captured or arrested. Hadrian ignored the king's orders and continued to strengthen his personal army. He noticed that his fortune had increased 1,000 times his original capital, all thanks to his personal army. And 2 years ago, he declared war on the royal family. Hadrian raised a massive army, using his own funds and conscripted citizens. Many people died in that war. The princess was sent to another kingdom to avoid being drawn into the war. The royal army was unfamiliar with the countryside, and the rebel army was superior in this regard, tipping the scales in Hadrian's favor. The civil war raged for almost 2 years. All this time, Hadrian's troops were capturing the kingdom. However, Hadrian suddenly died. Intoxicated by his streak of victories, he celebrated his troops' advance toward the capital. He had a weakness for alcohol, and that night drank 4 glasses of wine. While in his sleep, he died, and as a result, his army fell into chaos due to the news of his death. The rebel forces were disbanded because most of the soldiers no longer wanted to fight, and the royal army eventually won. Once stability was restored, the princess returned. This was during the summer holidays. The kingdom has such a past. The crisis is not over today. That is why she came back. Neko is so quiet, he doesn't want to ruin the moment. Vine said she was too modest. The girl said she had helped them immensely during the Civil War, defeating numerous enemy generals, and that it was only thanks to her that the royal family had been able to survive the past 2 years. That's why she allowed him to cook for her. She wants him and others to help the princess. She's counting on a hero. The guy said something could happen to the country again. The South is growing in power again. It's only a matter of time before the Civil War resumes. The hero said that he understood her as the girl's best friend and would help her. The girl thanked him and said she was very happy. Vine should be upset. Misunderstanding the princess's intentions was the most painful thing for him. After all, they were best friends. Rail said he and Vine learned of the civil war in the kingdom when Kuden sent reinforcements. Vine isn't the son of a knight captain. He should be especially disappointed. If he'd learned the princess had been drawn into the war, he would have immediately joined the army. But only thanks to the girl's link he was able to become friends with her, and in any case, he is grateful for this. Neko said the crisis wasn't over yet, and he couldn't ask for details. Perhaps there was something they still hadn't figured out. It was quite a complex issue. They decided to check where the sound was coming from. There was a smell of smoke. The hero said that it was only thanks to his reaction that they were able to put out the fire in time. The guy assumed that everyone went to the main hall. Rain was able to apprehend one of the criminals. This showed what the princess's assistant was capable of. She was urgently evacuated, surrounded by her guards, and he thinks she is already in a safe place. The hero said that if the girl was safe, he would be at peace. He couldn't learn the details of the incident until the next day. The fire most likely spread from an empty room in the castle and a food storage room. Other fires were also extinguished in time. After one of the saboteurs was captured by Rain and their fire extinguished, a wonderful performance was then staged, which was attended by many guests. The girl said that the king was inviting the 3 of them to his place, and she asked to be accompanied in peace. The man said that he had gathered the 3 of them for a reason. They all thanked him for the invitation. Although the girl doesn't know about Reina, the man said that sending his daughter to another kingdom was the right decision. The girl said that she was very sorry for the inconvenience she had caused him. The guy replied that it was okay. She said that her father said that she should relax with her friends. The protagonist said he was worried they wouldn't be able to talk anymore. The girl was also glad about that. The guy said they got a little distracted while they were telling him about the kingdom. While she was in a safe place, Prince Ark supported her with help in another country. The hero told her not to worry. If she hit him, he'd go back to her old Wayne. She said the guy was like an oak tree and always difficult to deal with, even now. Eventually, everything returned to normal. The girl suggested going to a fish race. This game, invented in their kingdom, had reopened a month ago. They decided to go. Vine said he couldn't go. The princess suggested leaving him. It seemed Vine needed more time. He wanted to know when he would come to an agreement with the princess. The race takes place in a small natural lake, where they release fish and bet on them. The guy suggested betting. There was a waiting area for the 12 fish that would compete. People would come there to check on their condition. The guy wondered if it was possible to check their condition just by looking at them. He looked at one fish. This is the fastest and most graceful fish. A unique product of a whole generation of selective breeding. While it would be an exaggeration to say it's the fastest fish on the continent, people still bet on it. Her father has experience with fish races and raised them for himself. As he can see, she's the most popular, and the scoreboard says so. The guy said the scales weren't tilted toward number 11, and it looked weak and sickly. The girl said it was obvious he was an amateur, and she couldn't understand how anyone could overlook the fish's pedigree, and how he, with all his knowledge, would one day make mistakes. She was going to bet on their fish for them. The master's bet number was 6. Vanya said he'd bet on number 1 since she was in good shape and had a strong physique. In any case, the race was heating up, and the hero wanted number 6 to win. Rain said he chose number 2. The hero wondered what would happen if his fish could win. The moment had arrived for the race to begin. Number 6 was in 12th place. The guys were shouting words of encouragement. The race began. Number 1 was in the lead. Number 1 is eliminated. According to their rules, number 1 is disqualified. With number 1 eliminated, number 11 now leads, as expected from the most popular. But it's not over yet. This day was tough. Number 2 was in the lead. The smart fish chose the shortest route. Number 6 won. The girl said he had such a keen eye that he could tell which fish were flying and which were sick. The guy thought he couldn't say it was because it simply looked appetizing. He said it was wonderful and went home. The princess returned as if she had just had a meeting with a politician. The guy asked how long they had been there. Neko said they could stay as long as they wanted. They could do their own thing, and she was sure the princess would be happy to spend more time with them. They could simply catch up when I returned, and there was no need to rush. But there was information she hadn't told everyone yet. It was about the Civil War. He already mentioned that the Civil War is not over. In fact, Adrian's son is still alive and doing well.